What up?
What's going on?
First,
He wasn't messing around.
bro, let's hope we have less problems than Brian had last night on his live.
Okay. I didn't stay the whole time. Yeah, what happened?
It just kept like every time I clicked on his live, it would be like, oh, this is no longer available. And then I would click in and it would be him glitching, and then I would click out and then my YouTube would crash. Whoa.
Jordan, you got a package.
That's Jordan's one clicks coming
in. You're wild, man. Well,
YouTube hates me, or YouTube Lives hate me.
That's a shame, man. I texted him, I'm like, oh, it's going wild, and then it like kicked me out of YouTube. I was like, oh no. So 1978, y'all.
What a special year.
What were you? None of us were here, bro.
No.
It feels like it was just yesterday, right?
Let's look up before we get rolling on this. Let's look up significant events in 1978.
What's up, man?
What's up, dude? Let's see. Significance of I can't even talk, dude. All right, let's see. The Jonestown Massacre, the first test tube baby.
Oh,
what's happening here?
The Jonestown Massacre was 78.
We're off to a great start for the year.
We could talk about the Sacrament.
Yeah.
Wow. Grease came out. Superman, Christopher Reeve Superman came out.
See, that's why we timed this episode.
Smallpox was officially eradicated in 1978. Now the Black Plague is back. So
time to celebrate.
Yeah.
Brian's right. Everyone was trying to copy Star Wars.
Historical events. Everyone was trying. Yeah. Muhammad Ali won the World Heavyweight Championship against Leon Spinks. Yeah, it's cool, man. Oh wait, what's this? Oh, okay, so the continued success of Saturday Night Fever, the rise of disco, the debut of Van Halen.
Oh, that's sick.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So I wanted to look at real quick with you guys. We have how many titles are we talking about today?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6. Okay.
So
I want to talk about some movies that we're not covering tonight real quick and see if you guys have any affiliation at all, because clearly we picked what we thought was most substantial, right, for the year. So a couple things. Damien, Omen 2. What are your guys' thoughts on Omen 2?
Well, it's not the first one, clearly. It's I didn't mind. It's forgettable for me. I just watched it not too long ago, and I don't know. I was listening to Eli Roth's the horror podcast he had with Quentin Tarantino. He did sum it up pretty great. That the great thing about the first one, it was the whole idea is you're fighting with the idea is, okay, is Damien really this prophesied Antichrist, or is he not? And so you don't really get that question or that answered until a little bit later down the movie. This one we already know, so all it is people finding out and they die. People finding out and they die. That's all that's the whole movie.
True. Yeah, Steve, what about you? You have any connection to Omen 2?
I mean, I like it. I definitely don't think it's as impactful as the first one, but it's a fun watch here and there if you're going back and revisiting them. Like I have the Scream Factory box set, so going back and taking a look at some of those a couple times since owning it. So
yeah, I think the only thing I really like about it is the elevator scene, because they had to one up the glass decapitation.
Of course.
So they did an elevator, which the elevator scene was kind of crazy. Like when you watch it, that's a wild. I don't know how they did that. I don't know how they really pulled that off, but just kind of like one of those great scenes in like a okay movie. I don't know if you guys are a big fan of this one. I am. I didn't think it was impactful enough to bring up for like major discussion today, but the Toolbox Murders, are you guys fans of that?
It's been a long time since I've seen that.
I have never seen it. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
It's very good, man. It starts off right away. Like it gets into the trash right away. The beginning is just like him going pretty much like apartment to apartment, killing women.
With his
It's
toolbox.
really sleazy.
Yeah, super sleazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Revenge of the Pink Panther.
super sleazy. Fun fact for people who don't know, Toby Hooper actually directed the Toolbox Murders 2 remake of the sequel to the remake. A lot of people don't
Wild.
know that.
So now I gotta watch it.
Jaws 2
Oh, come on. That didn't make the list.
did not make the list.
Damn it.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Anyway,
Cinema.
Let's see what else we got here. Blue Sunshine, The Last House on the Beach, which I feel like I should watch. I've never seen that before. Spawn of the Slithus. Any fans? Any? I don't know what a Slithus is.
I'm gonna look this up. I'm gonna get some virus.
A bunch of TV movies. Are You in the House Alone? Death Moon, The Initiation of Sarah. Yeah, I mean The Legacy I'm familiar with. I've never seen. I know The Grapes of Death, which is right here. This is a Jean Rollin film that is coming out on Indicator. That came out in 1978. The Bermuda Triangle. Never seen this one. Scuba diving trip. Okay. Yeah, that pretty much sums up 1978.
I definitely think the movies that we're covering, I feel like that they're like in a tier above most of those. As much as I dig
Yeah,
Jaws too, I don't
definitely.
think it's as important as these other ones.
Have you guys ever seen this movie Magic about a ventriloquist?
Is it with Anthony Hopkins?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I always remember seeing that at the video store, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, this one I was shocked because it has a 6.8. That came out in 1978. It has a 6.8 on IMDb, and I was like, "What is this?" Interesting. I'll have to find this, but it looks like Dark Sky owns it, which is like, you know,
Your favorite label.
this is my favorite. They're my favorite, bro. They'll put out 3 steel books of it. No worries, bro. I'm not worried about it. So we do have a special guest. He'll be coming on eventually.
Sorry, I was reading something.
It's building anticipation.
So we want to kick it off? We want to get started?
We can. I was just hold on. Oh, yeah. The other one was I was like, I swear there's another one, Slave of the Cannibal God. That's what I was thinking.
Slave. Did that come out in 1978?
Well, that's what Google says.
Interesting. Slave of the Cannibal God. Oh,
Was
yeah.
that a 7 release?
It is under 1978. Oh, it is under horror. I thought maybe they lumped it under a different genre. Oh yeah, Sergio Martino. Let's see. National Geographic Channel meets Italian sleaze. Nice. Now on 4K from Severin Films.
Is that with Stacy Keach?
It is.
Yeah.
Great mustache.
He's got a very distinct look.
He does. Yes.
Yeah.
He does.
I always remember him from not that they're the same movie by any means, but American History X. Wasn't he in that too?
Stacy Keach was. He was the head of the the head of the Nazis.
Yes, he's the one. Okay.
Yeah.
Remember Edward Norton talks to him up in the office?
Yep.
And that's right off the dome. I did not look that up.
That's a great movie. That needs a 4K. That needs.
Do you think there's a reason why it hasn't?
Yeah, because it's about Nazis.
Yeah, but it's not like positive.
Well, hold on. Didn't Severin, aren't they releasing one? What was it Skinheads? Was that the name of the movie?
Yeah, Skinheads.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
second.
No, dude, you're like third, actually.
better get in line, GC.
Know your place.
All right. So before our guest comes on, let's chat about our first pick. Funny, this one was a little funny because when I was just doing some research, all the dates were claiming 1977.
That's why I was really confused with this one specifically.
Yeah, Jordan, do you want to mention what it is?
The first 77. Wait, hold up. Make sure we're talking about the same one because I. If
It
that's
is.
the
No,
case,
it came out May 10th, 1978, but the
oh,
initial, what do
well,
you call
what
it?
I'm saying is then there's two films we have that kind of are iffy on the dates.
Okay. Yes. You
Okay,
were
perfect.
100.
Then okay. Yeah, 1978. We've got this. I loved this film. George A. Romero's Martin.
Hell yeah.
Dude.
Such a great film. And it's about this guy you meet, you don't know much about him, and you find out that he might be Nosferatu himself from a coven of vampires. And he talks about how he's been this age since 1800s. And but it doesn't, it almost leaves you wondering, is it all real? Is he really a vampire? Because, there's never really a true bite. There's obviously why there's a razor blade right there.
Mhm.
But this was a great movie. I was shocked. This was the first time watch for me. And I had this, but I just never watched it. But and the ending too, I thought that was an amazing, what a way to end the movie, I thought. No, I thought it was great. I enjoyed it a lot.
I remember everybody hoping there's like a 3-hour cut of that movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I think the elements are lost, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, there's a really long cut. When Second Sight announced the 4K, everybody thought that we were going to get the extended cut. So it's allegedly 165 minutes long,
Holy hell.
according to the Lost Media Wiki.
I wonder if they have say anything about it. I didn't get to read the book or anything. Sorry, Chris. But
No, you're good.
No. I'm apologizing that I did not read the book. Is what I'm saying.
No, oh yeah, you're good, man. I'm not gonna be upset with you about that.
Did you guys see this movie? Well, I know Jordan was saying you saw this recently, right? But Chris, did you see this like maybe like in the midst of like really getting into horror? Because this was one that kind of escaped me for a long time, to be honest.
I always knew it. Like I could always name it in a George Romero discussion that like it existed, but I had
Mhm.
never seen it before. I didn't watch it until Second Sight released it, and I was like, I did really early on my YouTube channel. I did a review of that box set, and it was almost kind of like this really interesting piece of Romero's history because it was always like this big thing, and it wasn't really
Yeah.
available. Like there was a Blu-ray out. But at that point, it kind of become hard to find, and the only discussion I really found on it was that people wanted the 165-minute director's cut that is supposedly supposed to be in black and white. That was the original intention.
Oh, okay.
I could see that.
Yeah. So I didn't see it until that one came out, and I remember watching it for the first time and kind of being a little. I think I'd overplayed it in my mind, like I thought it was
Mhm.
going to be, And then when I went back and I watched it again, I really started kind of finding because what's interesting about Martin is that the whole story is kind of a story of actually it's kind of like a misdirection, right? Like our character, and forewarning, like we're not going to purposely spoil, but there might be some little spoilers in here for anybody who hasn't seen Martin. The whole idea is that basically this kid is we're kind of questioning if this kid is actually crazy. You know what I mean? We don't know if he's a vampire or not. Clearly, I think the movie states that he's not, and the kid's is clearly delusional.
Well,
In
or
some
that,
way.
what was it? His grandfather, or kind of pushes him to believe that he is.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
did you guys get the vibe that it's like almost an unreliable narrator?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're like in the driver's seat with someone's point of view that you're not entirely sure if this is actually like accurate, or I feel like the way like his viewpoint is definitely romanticizing this in a way, because when I felt like that's what they were implying when they were flashing to like the black and white scenes, kind of
Yeah.
building it up like the vampire mythology and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely this one is very, very underrated, and it feels like a
Mhm.
very personal film.
Yeah, this was shot with a crew of like 6 people. when I was watching I think I was reading the booklet for that recently came out with The Dark Half.
Mhm.
They
Mm.
kind of talk about Romero. There's a article in there that's a little, or a write up in there about a little bit of Romero's history and kind of talking about the contrast between shooting Martin with like 5 people to then going into Dawn of the Dead and all of that with hundreds of people on crew, and then eventually The Dark Half, which was the biggest of his career studio wise. What is really interesting, and I want to kind of get your guys' thoughts. One thing I do when I watch movies is I kind of will like read some of the things that critics say. I always think that's really interesting after I kind of
Yeah.
form my opinion to go back. And I always go under Metascore on the IMDb because it just gives you like these paragraphs of each
Mhm.
review, right? And the first review here is an 80 out of 100 from the AV Club. And this Keith Phipps talks about how Martin touches on a number of post Vietnam ills, including urban decay, drug addiction, crisis in faith. Did you guys get any of that out of it?
I mean, I would say the religious undertones definitely seem evident. They
Mhm.
even allude to that. Well, I mean, I don't think they allude to it, but they're pretty upfront about that with his family and
Yeah.
having those Catholic ties. And then you see the one scene where I believe that they're at church.
Mhm.
So you can definitely seem like it seems like there's like a little bit of that kind of playing out throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see the drug addiction side
That's
of
what I was
things,
gonna say. That's out of all those 2, I can definitely tell. Um,
Yeah. Drug addiction.
the
Yeah.
impulses that he has, and
mhm.
just again, the viewpoint is very distorted with what we're getting, almost in, I don't know. I mean, in some ways, like somebody who's dealing with substance abuse problems, um, I could definitely see that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's an interesting visual. Like, I love how, especially the 4K from Second Sight, keeps it looking so dirty.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like, they
Very
cleaned it
raw.
up. Yeah, they cleaned it up and it looks fantastic, but it doesn't look perfect, which is a great choice. I mean, whether it was a creative choice to keep it looking that way or it was impossible to, depending on grade of the film and the restoration. But the 4K, while sharper, much more clarity, I think much more detailed visual, still looked like a low budget 70s film
Mhm.
to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I think helped retained a lot of the charm. And I think what I was most happy about when this came out is just that more people were exposed to it,
For
you
sure.
know?
Where would you guys put this as far as Romero films? I mean, if you were to take out of the ranking the Dead trilogy, but out of his other projects.
Ooh.
I have to see. Hold on, I'm gonna pull up a list.
So I think my favorite of his outside of the Dead movies is kind of a toss up between Dark Half
Mhm.
and Monkey Shines. I
That's
would
good.
I would probably put this eh, asking me today, I would probably put this like second or third. I think Monkey Shines has been my favorite of his original non-dead work. The amusement park is fantastic, but that was more of a PSA than it was a film, so I don't really put that in that ranking.
I
Yeah,
definitely put it up
I'd
there.
agree. I'd agree with that ranking. Um, there's also Creep Show, and Creep Show's great.
Creepshow would be probably top of the list.
Creep Show is up
Oh
there.
yeah. I always forget because I always when I think of Creepshow, I always think of Stephen King.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh
So
shit,
it would probably be Creepshow
70s is an equal.
doesn't equal charm to me.
Well, I think if you pair it with the movie, it is.
I would probably go Creepshow, Monkey Shines, then Martin.
Yeah,
That's a good. Yeah,
and then maybe followed by the Dark Half.
Yeah, Dark Half. That's really hard because then Bruiser's great.
I was just
But
about to ask where would you put Bruiser because I love that movie.
Martin is so hard because like when you go back into like I love doing filmmaker or like filmography dives, and it's so hard with that earlier work because it's like if that director had made that movie, if George Romero made that in the early 90s instead of Dark Half, we'd be talking about the movie so different. You know what I mean? And what does a director do when he's got very little money and all of that stuff? So it's
Well, not only that, I mean, he's at a different point in his life. His viewpoints on the world are different. We change, directors change as they age. So
For sure.
Mhm.
Plus,
Yeah, I
with the
don't
world,
think you-
world events too.
yeah,
Time.
I'm sure we would have a completely different film.
yeah.
Do you guys put the Crazies or like Two Evil Eyes in the conversation for some of his like within the ranking at all, or do you guys think that those kind of fall outside of the five we were talking about?
I think the Crazies is like second half tier. It's really hard with Two Evil Eyes because you have him and Argento, and
For
it's
sure,
like,
it's like a joint venture.
yeah, if you were to separate Romero's part, it's really hard to separate Romero's part and be like, okay, how do we rank this? And
hmm
you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I like the Crazies. I actually like the remake better than the original, but that's just me.
Remake's pretty good.
I'm due for a rewatch on both of them.
The remake's good. I just didn't want that ugly steelbook. Sorry.
This time it's personal.
Apologies.
Well, it's a steelbook too. So.
Yeah.
No. Well, genuinely, the artwork was like, I was like, I don't know what this. It looked like. It would be like something out of the early 2000s. I wasn't a fan of it. Sorry.
So this definitely, which I think is fascinating with this being released so close to Dawn of the Dead. I mean, these two films are like polar opposites.
God.
Like in scope, I guess.
Yeah. I wonder when. Let's find out. When was Martin actually shot? Was Martin actually shot and it just didn't come out until 19 shot. So Martin was shot in the summer of 76. Let's see. Interesting.
While you're looking into that, I don't know if you guys have watched the last horror film with Joe Spinell, but there was when I was going back and rewatching this, like for like preparing for this, there was like some similarities, not obviously of like the premise, but the unreliable narrator and kind of the delusional aspect of our main character that I felt like there was a little bit of similarities. At least I know obviously it wasn't intentional, but the two films kind of mirror one another in different ways.
So just it's so odd. Martin was shot in the summer of 76 and then Dawn of the Dead began filming November 1977.
Yep, into 78.
Well,
Year apart.
I'm sure a lot of it had to do with Argento as well. With Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just feels like such a jump to go from Night of Living Dead and Martin, both low budget, both very similar. If you put them on back to back, they seem like, and then you have Dawn of the Dead, which is big,
larger than life,
broader, and much longer, and much like, you know what I mean? It just feels like a different. I don't know. That's interesting, man. I think what's cool about Romero is like it always feels like he was on a different level when working on the Dead movies. It just felt like he was operating on a whole nother frequency. You know what I mean? Than his other work, and like all of his other work is good. There's something about those Dead movies that just feel like, it's like you have those directors that really like projects, and then you have the directors that's like their dream projects, and the Dawn of the Dead or the Dead movies always feel like his like dream, like that's what he's meant to be doing, and the rest feel like, yeah, I like that, and I did the good, Creepshow does feel like a passion project.
The other movies are just keep his lights on.
Yeah, everything else is keep the lights on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's good though, man. Martin's great. I think that second sight release is awesome. I'm happy more people, got a chance to discover it. As far as what do you guys think in the pantheon of obviously we're talking about 6 heavily influential films that came out in 1978.
Mhm.
Looking at it from 2025, do you guys think of the list that we have, this is because we have another Romero on this pick. Do you guys think this is low on the impact and just gets a lot of attention because it was Romero? Or do you think this movie like really had something to say in this time?
I think it could have had something to say. Like, you mean at the time it came out, or as of today?
I think I'm talking about like looking back at 1978. Like if we look at all the movies that we have and you were to say like, hey, these are the movies I think you have to watch from 1978. Why is Martin on that discussion?
I like it because it's a contrast with obviously Dawn of the Dead.
Mhm.
You know, you've like you said, polar opposites. And two, I think with majority of Romero's work, he's big into social commentary,
Yep.
sprinkling them through his movies. So I think that's in itself is a great, maybe I don't know if I want to say history lesson for the time that it came out, but in a way it could be.
Mhm.
This is what was going on in the world, and this is why this happened because of this movie. So I think as in importance and impact, it's up there. I think
Mhm.
I definitely have my opinion on the lowest that's in our list, but
Yeah.
no, I think it's up there for sure.
Steve, what about you? What do you think?
I think that this gives us I mean, if you really were to strip it down, but it ultimately gives us a snapshot as to what was going on during that time with like the messages it's trying to get across. And I think all these years later, like obviously with Second Sight releasing it and giving it new life for like a bigger audience, I think that this is definitely going to eventually kind of carve out its own following. I think we could go back and take a look at this and really appreciate what he was trying to do at the time and the messages he was trying to get across. But um, it's a unique take on like the vampire subgenre. If you're
Mhm.
looking however you want to look at it, or like, it's kind of left open ended by the very end of it. But I think that I can't think of too many other vampire tales that are similar to this movie.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was getting to because I feel like this is sort of like the anti,
Hmm.
like if you were to look, and I think most of the 70s vampire films were overseas. They were Italian, they were French, for the most part. Like I think of like um Jean Rollin or Jess Franco. This was I think of like Daughters of Darkness. This was very like incredibly erotic vampire stories that were almost like,
Yes.
hey, what's an excuse that we have to have some like, naked vampire girls and talk about bring in topics of like lesbianism and vampires are a metaphor for how, we're draining the life out of society and all. And so this feels so different because it does kind of break it down because a lot of times like we just accept them for what they are, right? They just show up. There's not a whole lot of lore. Um, they just show up and you're like, okay, cool, vampires. This looks at it from a completely different angle that I don't think ever has really been touched before, and even still to this day, I don't think anybody's really dissected. I don't even want to say dissected. I think it's the wrong term. Uh, like pulled the curtain back like this and made a vampire film that is a story of mental disorder, a vampire movie
Well,
that is,
Alienation.
yeah,
well, I was going to
isolation.
bring up, could you argue that this touches on the mental health?
Oh, 100%.
Of this idea of almost a bipolar sense of him, because if you watch, he has his highs and lows in the film,
Mhm.
and he talks about, he was talking on the film to the radio broadcaster, I'm weakening, he's getting his low and then he gets his high. And that's also another form of bipolarism, is the
Well,
highs and the lows.
and did you guys notice, I mean, you kind of see it throughout the movie, but there's like underlying themes of like sexual repression
Mhm.
Like, obviously,
Oh, yeah.
there's violence that takes place in this, and I think that the interesting take on this is it isn't the traditional style vampire that we're so used to seeing in a lot of movies. It's more syringes and razor blades, and you're kind of left wondering, is this guy like like mentally unhinged, or is he actually a vampire? Because um, his family would make you to believe otherwise, you know?
Yeah, I think too, the 70s and 80s, especially, like, I think of Martin, I think of Maniac,
Yes,
I think of, even last horror film, because I think Joe Spinell always nailed this really well, which is like the
unhinged.
yeah, unhinged, but also kinda like the, like, I hate to, like, say it like this, but kinda like the sleazy guy who's not, he's not the best looking,
Mhm.
or raised in a very strange situation, dealing with um incredible, like, sexual repression. The
Hmm.
way that he explores that is in a sick manner, you know what I mean? Like, there is a bunch of movies that kind of touch on this, and the character's always the same. You'd be hard pressed to find a movie that talks about sexual repression and it's like some handsome Brad Pitt looking guy,
Right.
good family, money, all that stuff. It's
Morals.
always Yeah, it's always like some Joe Spinell looking fellow, and in this case with Martin, I definitely think that's that's part of the the disorder, but also too, I always when it comes to movies like this, I always wonder, like, there has to be something about if he is pretending to be a vampire that's alluring to him. Like, is it alluring because of the thrill of the hunt, the thrill of the kill? I mean, it kind of actually sounds boring. You have to not only get into the premises of who you want to kill, but then you have to sedate them. You know what I mean? Like, you
Mhm.
have to take a needle, sedate them. They're gonna fall asleep. They say, you know what I mean? Like, what do you?
Yeah.
You could, I was just thinking this, because they did touch on, like you guys talked about, and it's kind of clear that the sexual repression and the whole idea of trying to suppress everything, that it could be a way of him. And I guess I want, maybe his alter ego. That's not a really great way to put it, but to to feed that desire is him. This my other half, my is this vampire, and this what scratches that itch that I
Hmm.
have for that, because I myself, no, I would never do that. I can't do that.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I go he goes to that place to where he can perform those acts.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think everything that he's doing is going very against the grain
Mhm.
compared to what his family believes in. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously a lot of like push for, you know, going to church and all these other like more traditional beliefs, and definitely what he's doing on the side, does not represent that whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think this is a movie that's never gonna, you look at modern day movies, you look at like The Witch, stuff from Ari Aster, and these movies have themes that I think can be discussed for decades, and they will
Hmm.
be discussed for decades. This is one of those movies that, as more people come across this, there will be unique takes. I mean, what's fantastic about film and cinema in general is that what I take away and what you take away is so different than everybody else who walks away from it. And depending on what you have gone through in life, you're going to pull separate themes from it. So there's this endless layers, like an onion, and every person who sees it is peeling away a different layer and analyzing it a little bit differently. And I think Martin is incredibly complex. I mean, I think this movie is almost to the level of, you can kind of write in when you read the booklet, if you ever decide to, Jordan, on that release,
Mhm.
you'll find like these incredibly personal takes on what this movie is trying to say that's so unique to the person writing the article. So I think it's incredibly interesting, and it could be as simple as, like, it's always funny, man, because I feel like people spend all this time like breaking down a movie and analyzing it, and then like you could find an interview with George Romero where he's like, I don't know, I thought it would just be cool if this guy was sick and he thought he
Yeah.
was a vampire. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
no,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
no actual
It's like it's
purpose.
not that deep, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was a
But
cool idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I've always believed that all film, I mean, that's literally what our podcast kind of leans on is like I think all film is meant for some level of deeper discussion, and I think you can pull whatever you want out of it. Sometimes it's a little too like the letterbox fandom pulls out these ridiculous theories about movies and you're like, okay,
Yeah,
reach, you know what I mean? Like
for
there's a
sure.
reach. But around the like all the whole board for Martin is conversation around complex themes and underlying topics. So I think everyone's pretty mutually decided that there's a lot to discuss with Martin.
Yeah, I'm glad this definitely gave me a chance to revisit this one. It's definitely, like I said, I feel like it's one of Romero's underappreciated films, and I'm glad Second Sight is hopefully building out a new audience for it.
Yeah, yeah. Have we had any
Yeah.
update on Mark?
So I just messaged him, but he told me, let's see, he was told he had to stay a little later at work, so he's not 100% sure when he's going to get here.
All right. Well, do we want to move on to
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
August release that is the complete opposite of everything we've just talked about?
Well, this release is what I was what I was referring to when I said talking about impact and how the importance of that time. There's a low tier one out of all these, and this is that one.
There's a Roger Corman level.
Yeah,
to this
right.
also.
Exactly.
Oh, come on now.
Steve, you want to talk about which one that is?
So the next one we're going to be discussing is Joe Dante's Piranha.
Yeah. This movie rules hard, dude.
Okay, he said he'll be here in like 20 minutes.
Okay. All right, cool.
Sorry, yeah, dude, Piranha.
So this one, it was fun going back and rewatching this one because I feel like that this is definitely fits this time of year, especially with like obviously outside of watching like Jaws and movies like that, but I always am a sucker for like creature features, and watching this and Alligator around this time of year. So what did you guys think? So
I remember so I actually saw the Alexander Aja remake first. I had seen that before I saw the original Piranha. I didn't watch Piranha until it came out on the Scream Factory 4K.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, honestly, same with Martin. I didn't like it as much the first time I watched it, but I think I watched it a little bit too, like, serious. Like, I think I put it on and I was like, all right, time to watch Piranha. And I was like, eh. And then I threw it on again one night when I was like in a less, what do you call it, mood?
Yeah.
And just ended up. It's what's so funny about this movie is it's so silly.
Yeah.
But there's like some seriously scary shit in it and some scary ideas.
It goes really dark. And I'm talking about there's one scene where all the kids are in the lake and that piranha just goes to a certain area of this of a little girl. And I was like, what are we doing? I was shocked when I saw that. That's wild to me. But I can't help but see a lot of the attempt similarities to Jaws from this movie.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, you've got,
even the opening.
the opening. Yep. You've got the rich guy who kind of owns everything. No, we're going to keep this going. They, after so many warnings, don't go in the water. He's like, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, Piranha is, and I think too, this is such a great start for Joe Dante because Joe Dante is just always laughing at you as the audience. Like there's always an inside joke. It's always there, man. And I feel like he's in on the joke heavily and he's letting us in slightly, but like you kind of have to be on a certain level with him to get it. You know what I mean? And it's so ridiculous, dude.
He definitely does be horror, I feel like, to a team. And I feel like every one of his movies, no matter what the premise is, he definitely like throws in his own kind of flavor of comedy, like that dark comedy in each one of his films. But yeah, this one was so much fun. Like it's just over the top, just ridiculous. Definitely riding that Jaws wave of success.
Well, Corman, I mean, like when I think when a lot of people hear Corman, I think they definitely go to, what the hell is it called? Forbidden Planet. Is that
Mhm.
is that Battle
Forbidden-
Beyond the Stars?
Yeah.
Um,
Humanoids from the deep.
Humanoids from the
Yep.
Deep.
That's another good one.
To
Mhm.
me, I always go right to Piranha. It just feels like right up Corman's alley to just rip off Jaws. Because originally Joe Dante was going to do Jaws 0. That's where all of this came from.
Oh, that's right. The third Jaws movie, right?
It was supposed to be, I think at the time it was going to be the third, and they went through hell trying to put that together, and then it all fell apart. And eventually, I think Corman offered him Piranha, and that's what you get. And now, are you guys anybody here fans of the remake and that sequel?
You know, I've never seen.
solid.
I never saw the remake.
I mean, they're definitely able to do a little bit more, I think, with the level of gore, the effects, like what they're able to do with that film, or like for either of those films. But yeah, they definitely, I think, kind of still keep that same level of like satire
Yeah,
or satire that you get with like both of the films. And I don't know, they're fun watches.
I love Alexander Aja, and I like the first Piranha. The second one that they made, the 3 double D.
Oh yeah.
There's like a subplot of that movie about a guy who keeps having sex with one of the air holes in the pool, in the slide, like, or in the pool. It's so weird,
The
man.
first
Hey,
one's
man.
definitely better.
Yeah,
You gotta. Sometimes you gotta take care of situations.
yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. What's up, dude?
What's up, man?
What's up, man?
Yeah, Piranha. So I think, trying to think of how to word this question. Underwater creature features or fish horror.
Hmm.
Piranha top 3.
Yeah, I'd put it up there.
If you had to put Piranha in with Jaws sequels, where does it go? Like if you had to rank Jaws sequels and Piranha.
Like where it would fall within like the sequels.
Yeah, like is Piranha better than Jaws 2? Is it better than Jaws 3? I mean, we know it's
I
better than Jaws the Revenge.
I like Jaws 2, so I'd probably put this just behind it. But
Yeah.
this is definitely definitely
It's
a lot better than 3 or the
3 or
Revenge.
4. Or Cruel Jaws.
Come on now. Okay,
Cruel
let's not go that far. Cruel Jaws
Bro,
would be top of the list.
Cruel Jaws, bro. Man, have you guys actually seen Cruel Jaws?
Absolutely.
And one thing I love about Piranha is that originally I think they were going to be sued, like Universal Studios was going to sue
Hmm.
New World for it, but Steven Spielberg loved Piranha too much to let them do that.
Yeah, they were worried that it would hurt the box office for Jaws 2.
Yeah, I don't think anything was going to hurt
I'm
the
like,
box office.
Yeah.
in hindsight, I think Jaws 2, I mean, yeah, obviously it doesn't have Spielberg attached to it, but I think it definitely did okay on its own.
That's crazy, man. What's funny about like going back to these movies is like to think that Rob Bottin was attached to this. You know, obviously he would do The Thing only a couple of years later.
Hmm.
But it's so funny when you go back. Like recently, I was watching Incredible Melting Man and hearing about Rob Bottin, being an assistant on that. It's just really odd to hear these big names and kind of like where they started.
Oh yeah.
I guess. You know what I mean? And it's not even like fact. Like I've never heard anybody be like, "Oh yeah, Rob Bottin worked on Piranha." Like legendary effects artist from The Thing worked on Piranha. Nobody's ever said that. Like I had to dive deep to find that info. You know what I mean?
Well,
Mhm.
even the composer for this movie, Pino Donaggio,
Oh my god.
I always forget that he composed like the score for this film, and I mean his track record is incredible if you go back and look at it.
I mean, only a couple years before this, he was doing Carrie.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Which
He
is
he did The Howling not too long after,
yeah,
which is
that's-
awesome.
Man, I just revisited Carrie, and I know we're not talking about Carrie, but what a great movie!
That
Mhm.
movie is
It's great.
fantastic. That's a great movie.
Yeah. It's even
Um,
even better with that Arrow box set.
No Love for Santa Jaws.
Santa Jaws.
Santa.
man.
People are asking if I'm going to be on a Cinema Rewind. What is this episode? What is this Tuesday's episode of Cinema Rewind on?
I Know What You Did Last Summer. Right?
Your favorite movie, Chris? You always told me it was better than Scream.
I think I might be on record with that. No. Like somewhere along the line, I was like, I think it might be better. I know it's better than. I think I Know What You Did Last Summer is better than Scream 2. Is that a hot take? Is that a hot take?
Maybe. I don't. I kind of like Scream 2.
I know. I feel like they're maybe like right around the same, give or take.
It's not better than look. Scream 3 rules. Okay, I don't care what anybody says.
Chris is gonna die on this hill.
I'm dying on that hill.
Hey, Scream 3 is not bad.
Scream 3. It's Scream and okay. Wait, let's do a Scream ranking real quick. It's gonna be Scream original, and then it's gonna be for me. It's gonna be 5 Cream. And then I'm gonna go Scream 3, Scream 2, Scream 4, Scream 6. Did I lose one in there? No, I think I got them all.
I think you got all of them.
Yeah, I think
That's tough. I mean, I definitely like the first two because I have the most memories attached with those two movies. But
see, I don't. That's what's funny, dude. I don't have any memories with Scream 2. I remember watching Scream 2 like 15 years ago. I think for the first time, like I felt like it was the first time, and until the ending. Once I got to the ending in the theater, I was like, "Oh, I have seen this." But for some reason I watched Scream 3 the most.
That scene that they have in the cafeteria in Scream 2 is like the rest of the movie solid. It's just that scene. I just have such a hard time watching it because it just feels like so out of place for the movie. I just try to stomach it.
Scream 2 and 3 above 4.
Loco.
Damn, now Brian's throwing in Spanish.
Scream 4. Yeah, Brian. Bilingual Brian. Scream 4. No, Scream 4 is good. Hayden Panettiere. I just hate the look of that movie.
With the Vaseline look and the lens.
Vaseline. Yeah, the Vaseline, the softness. Clarity all the way down.
I don't know. I go back. I feel like I would probably put 4 over 3. So
I might
go. Yeah, I would say okay. So we'll go the original 2, 4, 3, 6, and maybe 5. And I don't think any of them are like bad movies, but just as far as like movies that I go back and rewatch, I feel like the first 2 are always the ones I revisit. And where's the 4K for 4?
Of course, we're talking about Scream from 1978 on this episode of
How did we get to Scream? Oh, GC over here.
I feel like we're trying to like, I would love to talk about the next movie, but I really want to talk about it with Mark, So,
yeah.
You know what I mean? But we can
let me find out.
Like,
we can always move them around, right? Like, so which one? Oh, I guess it depends which one you're trying to save.
Oh wait, what's the next one?
George A. Romero.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a big one to talk about. We can
let's just do it.
Okay.
All right, Jordan, you go. Kick us off, man.
You haven't gone yet.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's right. So
I want to do the next one. So
this one was a debacle because we couldn't figure out the release date.
Yeah.
It's very complicated with this one, but I have it up there. I don't know if I should go. Should I go and grab it?
Yeah.
All right.
You should.
Hold on.
Let's see who's on here.
Dude, thanks for everyone for hanging out with us.
Yeah, dude. You guys picking up
Carrie
2?
The Rage.
I don't know. I'm not in a rush to get it.
No.
That's for sure. Look
Dawn
at that.
of the Dead.
Do you have that, Steven?
I don't have that one. I have the just a regular box set.
Okay, I have it too.
Oh, I need that.
Okay, guys. All right. Take it easy.
Steve, you ever seen this before?
No, first time.
Do you know what this
My virgin eyes.
So really curious about this because, like, what was your guys?
What's up, Jeff?
What's up,
What's up,
Jeff?
dude?
What's your guys' first experience with Dawn of the Dead?
Oh man, I remember getting the black, was it the Ultimate Collection DVD set from Anchor Bay?
Fuck yeah, dude.
Whoo! I remember getting that. I had never gotten a movie get that type of treatment, and I played the shit out of those movies. Like that was like at the time, it was just I don't know, it was very different than any of the other movies I had, and um, very special movie in my collection when I was a
Yeah,
number of years ago.
dude, I got that for $3 at a pawn shop. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
beat
That's
that,
worth more
Jordan.
than $3 now.
Yeah, that collector's one. Well, I had it up until I got this set, and then I gave that away. Because I remember I remember seeing Dawn of the Dead, watching it on VHS, and then uh I think I was in. I used to go to. This is probably right out of high school, so like 2011, and I used to go to pawn shops to look for like skate DVDs.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And this is like GameStop, I think, was like just fading out of selling DVDs. And I remember going to local GameStop and I bought a couple like Thrasher DVDs that I heard was there. And then somebody had told, because I was with a friend, somebody had told us that this pawn shop in Glassboro had a whole bunch of them. And we went and they did have a whole bunch. And on the shelf, they would have all the DVD spines, and then every now and then they would have one that faced forward,
Mm.
kind of fill in the gap.
Mhm.
And the cover was just that red and black caught my eye. And I was like, I remember picking it up and I had no idea that there were so many cuts. I didn't know any of that. And I was like, oh, I have to buy this. And it had the comic in it.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, dude, I watched the hell out of that release. And that was kind of like, that might have been the first like boutique treatment of anything I ever bought. It was like that. And do you guys remember the Sin City recut extended box set that came out on DVD?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was a recut extended. It came with like a comic book. It was like a big fold out. Those were kind of like the first two. And this movie fucked me up, to be honest with you.
It was, oh man, what a special time to I just feel like that's like the definitive way that I remember watching this movie. And man, talk about an impactful film. Like this definitely holds a lot of good memories for me, and definitely opened up the door for, exploring more horror movies like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um but yeah, I mean, where do you even begin with this? Just the impact that this has had, and I don't know. Would you guys consider this probably the most popular film out of his Dead trilogy?
Well, I would actually probably kind of argue Night of, I think there's so many people that know Night of the Living Dead that have never seen
Mhm.
Dawn or Day. I mean, I think Night of the Living Dead is much more impactful. Dawn of the Dead was just like you know, Night of the Dead walked so Dawn of the Dead could run. You know what I mean? He just built
Mhm.
upon it in such a
He's firing on all cylinders, I feel like, for this film. It's
well. Yeah. I actually think Day of the Dead is my favorite of his
it's so
original
hard.
because Day of the Dead to me feels like everything he learned from Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead put together, and then you have Savini's masterwork. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like Day of the Dead is, but I I go back to Dawn of the Dead more because it's just fun. You
We
know?
had we had a chance to see, I don't remember if it was last summer or the summer before, but we saw a double feature of Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead at the drive-in. Oh, it was such a fun experience. Like, just to see it in, like, that format, I just felt like it was so impactful, but, yeah, Dawn of the Dead, it's a hell of a movie, that's for sure.
Jordan, what was your first experience with it like?
My first, so the earliest that I can remember knowing about the film, I just remember seeing the scenes, just random scenes at the mall.
Hmm.
I remember that, but honestly, a full beginning to end remember was very like within last year that I remember actually. Okay, beginning to end. I know I had seen it or at least seen scenes of it before when I was younger. But this is it's a definitely a great film. You fall in love with the characters so much. All
Hmm.
four of them. They each have their own um, just uniqueness about them. I think is great. I don't remember the character's name, but you've got the two cops. The one who does end up dying. Man, you want to talk about one of the saddest scenes between him, the two cops, when he finally wakes up and he's finally the zombie. You
Hmm.
know, it's just
His
well, the face, yeah, the face is different, but I mean the stakes and it is pretty
Yeah.
sad. You
Yeah.
know, when they show they show another shot and you hear the gunshot go off. It's just
the
great.
yeah, actually, like I don't know, man. I like the characters of Dawn of the Dead. You know, like
Mhm.
I like them enough. I think George Romero's direction is just incredible. Like the cold open in the news station
Yeah.
is so good, dude. It's just
Yep.
chaos, you know. And then you have that cold open, and it slams right into the apartment scene, which just introduces you to one of the nastiest characters
Mhm.
of the whole movie. And the guy's not even a zombie.
Yeah.
The meanest
Yeah.
character of this whole movie is a scumbag cop. You know
Well,
what
Hmm.
I
that
mean?
he's just answering kind of what also one of his takes are of the film right at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. He's awful, dude. He terrible. And then that you have that whole apartment raid sequence, which is incredible. And you're only 6 minutes into the movie, maybe.
Well, it establishes that society's collapsing.
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm.
There's no like there's zombie movies always start with, and this is like as much as I love the Zack Snyder remake of Dawn of the Dead, and I think that opening is great. It
Hmm.
starts when everything's normal and things are starting. So you have this like gradual entrance into that world, and Dawn of the Dead is just there. Like
Yeah.
from that first shot of that weird ass wallpaper, the wall, you
Mhm.
know, um, you're just there, dude, and you're in it. And I remember, well, as a kid, obviously I thought, man, like, how cool would that be in a mall? Now it's funny because as an adult in 2025, I look at malls in the way that I think Romero was commenting on malls.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, man, how sad it is. Like these places are like, you got people just walking around aimlessly, consumer marketing, all this
Mhm.
stuff going on
Yeah.
in these malls, obviously all the consumerism. But
You go ahead.
no,
I thought you were done with your thought.
I was just gonna say, like to me, the movie's high point, and I think it's the best scene of the whole movie, is when this temple that they've built, right? You have they set everything up. You got all the zombies out.
Hmm.
It's great, right? They think they're living rich. They got nothing to worry about. And then you have the motorcycle gang
Mhm.
that shows up, and you have still to this day the best zombie munching scene ever put on film. And I will argue that till the end of time. And maybe I'm a little sick in the head, but when I was young watching this, I would like rewind the scene over and over and over again, dude. I thought it was so fascinating. Like the guy who goes to the blood pressure cuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
This dude's like, he's at the blood pressure cuff and he's like pushing zombies off him, and then it cuts back and it rips his arm rips off, and then
Mhm.
it shows the screen going off with his blood pressure reading.
Yep.
Um, you have the guy obviously getting belly ripped open, and
Hmm.
dude, as a kid, I had never seen anything like that. Not in that level, and it just really like had an impact on me.
You either go to malls and see the consumerism or the tactical advantage points of where to go in a mall.
Yeah. Okay, I will say I have looked down like some of those hallways and been like, all right, I think you can barricade that up.
Yeah. I
Make
used
sure
to
you
I used to
make sure
work
you
in a
always got
mall
an
just like
exit.
that. Yeah, I used to work in a mall, and those hallways, man, they could they have their advantages.
Yeah, you know what's funny about Dawn of the Dead, just effects wise, the scene that hurts me the most, it's not the guy getting his intestines ripped out. It's not the screwdriver in the ear. It's not the machete in the head. It's when Flyboy gets shot in the arm when he's at the top of the elevator and they shoot
Oh
up and it
yeah.
blows through. I for some reason that it just always hurts me. It's like how the effect looks and how it plays out. Like that makes me cringe. But some guy literally getting his intestines eaten, I'm like, yeah, cool. You know.
What do you guys think this ranks as the head explosion compared to Cronenberg's?
I think it's kind of trash compared to Cronenberg's. You don't see it.
It's
Yeah.
very fast. It doesn't build up. It's just there and it's gone.
Scanners
The
is
shoulder,
gnarly, man.
yeah, dude, the shoulder bite in
Oh
that
yeah.
apartment scene is better than the head explosion.
Yep. The just you could see this the skin, just the pulling
Mhm.
is what gets me.
I I would say the head explosion in Wes Craven's Deadly Friend is better than the head explosion in Dawn of the Dead. And that person got a basketball to the face.
It's such a wild scene.
Yeah. That whole yeah. Well, okay. Well, then what cut of the film do you prefer?
Is it? I think it's both labeled the director and the can cut. I think it's the director
Basically
and
the
right,
extended long, the really
the
long one.
longest cut.
Yeah.
How? What did you think of the Argento cut? I know you said it was moving.
It was so I've seen the first one I watched the theatrical, then I moved on to the extended, and then I watched the Argento. I like the music. I like the
Mhm.
whole new score. I
Mhm.
think it's great. They definitely trimmed down and trimmed the fat as in terms of kind of the more downtime, the more lighthearted stuff. I mean, this was very it felt dread for
Mhm.
the whole movie. But yeah, it moved fast. I was shocked. You
Did you
know,
like the pacing for that cut?
it was good, but I'm used to the other cuts.
Mhm.
But I that's what I like about like even the theatrical cut. It's got its charm of the kind of more lighthearted moments and makes the characters feel more human than
For
just a
sure.
constant dread because you got to figure you're in that situation. You're going to try and bring some humor or some life to try and get through the situation.
Well, even I mean, there's like scenes, Jordan. I know we were talking about this for the 28 Days Later episode. What's up, Mark?
Oh,
Mark hi, Mark.
Yeah.
Hey
Oh, hi,
guys, what's up? Really sorry for being late.
Oh, you're good.
No, dude, it happens.
Had some work issues. We're having some refrigeration problems, so I'll
Oh,
just kind of
we
leave it. I work in a restaurant, so it's
okay.
it's not great.
we
But-
were just about to start discussing the masculinity touches of Flyboy versus Peter and Roger in Dawn of the Dead and how Flyboy tries to be as tough as them the whole movie.
Never point your gun at someone.
Yeah, I wasn't able to rewatch this, but I have seen this film
That's the one I got.
only one time. So I was hoping to sneak in some rewatches of some of these films, but unfortunately, I did not have time.
That's all right, man. What? So you've only seen Dawn of the Dead once?
I've only seen the original Dawn of the Dead one time. What's up,
No
John
way.
Doe? I know, man. I know. I got this when I could, and I've only been I don't know. I've only seen it one time. I need to pop it in again though.
I mean, you've seen it more than Brian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
You
never
got that
seen it.
going for you?
that's true.
He's
You
not a
guys-
big horror guy though, is he?
No.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
he picks and
Pick-
chooses.
Yes, that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's valid.
Do you guys ever wish like you could like hearing Jordan talk about watching Dawn of the Dead for the first time recently, hearing Mark seeing I there's always a piece of me that's like I wish I could discover this movie now again.
Oh, 100%. For a lot of movies.
Yeah, because you kind of get that like when you're like, oh yeah, I saw Dawn of the Dead, 20 years ago at this point, which was probably when I saw it to now. Anytime I hear people that are like, yeah, I just saw that for the first time, like I get excited for them because I'm like, God, if I were you, I would become obsessed.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
I
Like I
definitely
am
know
now.
what you mean. And then in the case of this movie too, this one is harder to find. So I understand it when people tell me that they haven't seen Dawn of the Dead, just because
Yeah.
it's a little more harder to isolate.
I didn't even think about that because I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think it's like, for people that are discovering this for the first time? Do you guys think that it would be more difficult for them to find it in general? I mean, it's not, I don't think it's on, it doesn't, we're not streaming.
It seems like the kind of thing you'd have to seek out, right? Like,
Mhm.
because it's not going to be on a streamer, so really physical is going to be like the only way, right? I don't even think you can
Mhm.
rent it on VOD or anything.
Yeah, it's that
So
fucking Rubenstein guy holding on to
yeah,
it for dear life.
Yeah.
yeah, that guy, yeah,
That guy.
That guy.
yeah, I
Yeah,
do
I mean,
know that
well,
about the movie. Is
I
that
think
guy?
that's because you guys asked, I think it was Steve. You asked about like, is this general population like the best? And I think it's Night of the Living Dead is so much more accessible, so that's what people know.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
they're almost like on complete opposites because Night of the Living Dead is like literally public domain and anyone can use it, whereas
Yeah.
this is like
Yeah.
you cannot find it anywhere.
well, that's the thing. It's like it's funny because you look at the story of Night of the Living Dead and you're like, oh man, that sucks. They made no money off of that because of the issue with the name and everything that happened, right? So it's been public domain ever since release. Then you have Dawn of the Dead, where it's the opposite end of one guy owns everything, and that guy is a dick. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of. I wonder if there was ever a piece of Romero that was kind of like, oh, I wish that happened with Dawn of the Dead. You know what I mean? Like I wish that just went. They had a
Hmm.
title. They had like Mall of the Dead, and then there was a rights thing, and they're like, oh, that's public domain. Probably would have been better off.
It's crazy because I mean, I remember like when I was first finding out about this for the first time, it was a little bit more accessible. Now, I mean, unless you go back and you dig up, I mean, what was really the last format outside of the 4K that it was on Blu-ray
There was a
in
Blu-ray,
the States?
which is really hard to find at the time.
Crazy. What's up, Garrett?
Yeah, I
What's
think
up,
it's
dude?
still like a pretty reasonably expensive Blu-ray. Like it's at least $40 to get that
Mhm.
Blu-ray.
Yeah, that was expensive. And I remember hearing people. It's actually funny how closely similar it is to like Dogma. People
Yeah,
were like posting like, "Oh, I found Dogma for $4 at Goodwill." Every now and then you'd see somebody that's like, "Oh, I found Dawn of the Dead on Blu-ray at
Mhm.
Goodwill for $4," and they were both in the same category of like. Well, I remember going to Goodwill's before the second site, and always
Mhm.
those were like the two. I was like, if I could find Dogma or Dawn of the Dead on Blu-ray, this would make my whole trip worth it. But
yeah.
no,
There's a
remember
handful to keep your eyes out for. Is like if you're ever in a Goodwill, like look for Near Dark, look for Dawn of the Dead, look for Dogma. Like
yeah, those were always the one. And now it's funny because like I love when if I ever do find myself at like a used, I have a brief moment where I'll find something like I'll find a Dawn of the Dead Blu-ray and I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, wait a second, I have this on 4K with a book with
Yeah.
another book
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
big deluxe box set. Like I'm like, this is nothing though anymore.
I remember having this. Do you guys remember the PSP?
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, so I had a copy of this on DVD, then had it for like my PSP. I remember watching it at school, just like
what?
super low
Yeah.
key. Yeah, yep, yep.
That must be kind of pricey. That's probably a collector's item. The UMD of Dawn of the Dead.
Let's see. Let's do an eBay run. I'm just picturing them like, wow, what a perfect way to watch Dawn of the Dead on your PS.
Oh, it was
The
incredible.
tiny-
Yeah,
I
those
had-
little UMDs were cool though.
Yeah, it's
remember having-
$85.
Yep.
I had
That's cool.
Predator. Trying to think what else. Yeah, Garrett's
Barry's
right.
done so many times for that nothing.
Oh, you can get it for $29.99 used right now.
You got the Anchor
Okay.
Bay VHS.
The artwork on that. I love the orange on that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Damn. And Evil Dead 1 and 2 were on UMD. That's
I don't know
crazy.
if I ever
dude.
had
Is
those.
that huh?
Bro, I'll be in history watching Evil Dead 2. You know what I mean? Just don't bother me. Land of the Dead I had on UMD.
Yeah,
I had Land of the Dead. I remember. Man, what a weird. And look, Land of the Dead had bonus features on it. It had the
Listen, Chris,
documentary.
I would have
Wow.
shared my my like earbud with you if you wanted to watch Dawn of the Dead with me.
Oh,
You know
that's
what?
a real friend on the
Yeah.
bus, right?
Yeah,
On the
of
bus,
course,
on the
man.
bus?
on
I
the
mean,
bus ride home.
I would try during class, but
They're like
it's a
Mrs.
little challenging.
They're like Mrs. Higgins, your son, instead of paying attention to Spanish class today, he was watching George A. Romero's 1978 classic Dawn of the Dead in
Yeah,
school.
if the teacher said it like that, that'd be so funny.
All he did was rewind Tom Savini's fall off of the second story over and over and over again. That's all he did. Well, Jordan, I know
Yeah.
I know you're very excited to chat about the upcoming movie.
Oh yeah.
And I can't wait for you to get to that, but I have one more question before we get to that. I just wanted
That's
to
fine.
tease you on that.
Yeah, I'm excited. What?
No, so we talked about this with Martin and its impact. Dawn of the Dead, 1978, obviously huge time. Very, very very controversial because of the gore level and stuff like that at the time, right? Because Dawn of the Dead was technically released unrated, which made the movie very hard to market. It was very hard to get into theaters because of that. What would be like your one line sell to people who were like, okay, I'm going to watch a whole bunch of movies from 1978. Why should I watch Dawn of the Dead? Don't all speak at once.
Oh wait. Oh,
I thought that was
got
for
a
Jordan. I thought that was
yeah.
for
My bad. I
Jordan.
thought you were. This was meant.
Oh,
for Jordan.
was it just for me?
No.
That's
This is
I
for
don't think
anybody.
you even knew.
That's what I thought he said. I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
I'm
I
sorry.
I would say it's probably one of the best. I mean, I have movies that I would pick over this, but just generally speaking, I think it's one of the best zombie movies ever made.
It's
Yeah.
hard to say because I love Night so much. That's my favorite, I think, of the first three. But this one is just so great, and I had seen the remake, the Zack Snyder remake, when I was young, and that was a movie that really, I feel like in a lot of ways, like informed my taste in horror movies. That's a damn good remake, I think. I really like that movie, and I think that's probably the version that most people are familiar with. Like most people don't know. Especially like I feel like our age, I feel like we might all be kind of around the same age. So like most people don't even know that there's an original.
I didn't even think about that.
You know what I mean? Like, sometimes like I have like coworkers who are like in their 20s, like 21 or whatever, and they'll like be like, so one of them asked me one time, he's like, "You ever seen The Hills Have Eyes?" And I was like, "Which one?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" Like I like not knowing that there was two or two different like remakes or whatever.
How shocked would you have been if he was like, "Nah, man, Hills of Ice Part 2 with the dog flashback, man. Come on."
Well, that's what I was about to be really surprised that this kid knew about the original Wes Craven Hills Have Eyes, right? And
Or
he
he
was
was
like,
like-
"Oh, no, I meant the 2000s one." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, see, like you got to watch the original now."
Or he's like, "Nah, man, I'm talking about Hills of Ice 3 Mind Ripper. Have you guys come on, man?
Is that a real thing?
It's not called the movie's just called Mind Ripper, but it was overseas, it was sold as the Hills of Ice 3.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I didn't even know about that.
He just one-ups you.
But
But
yeah, I guess back to your try to tie it back to your original question. So you said if someone was trying to watch films from the 70s, why would you suggest Dawn of the Dead? Was that, or is it 70s horror films in particular?
Well, I think what we're trying to do here is really kind of like give kind of like what we feel is the most impactful. If somebody was to go like, "Hey, I'm going to take a deep dive into horror year by year," we're picking the essentials.
Okay.
Right? So somebody says to you, you give them a list and they're like, "Why Dawn of the Dead?" What does your reply sound like to that?
I mean, it's one of the most influential zombie films out there. It's where a lot of people got their start too. Like because it informs Savini's trajectory, it informs Romero, like where he goes off to go, and I don't know. It's important for historical reasons. I think like any horror fan worth their salt should be trying to like do their due diligence to try to like check off as many of these boxes, and this is one of the boxes you have to check off. That's
Yeah.
that's what I would say.
Would you guys say that this had an impactful message with like consumerism, like even all these years later? Because I think that that's like kind of goes, it's like the flip side of the coin. Obviously, this is a very important zombie movie, and is definitely like hailed as one of Romero's like one of his best films. But I think that I mean, even all these years later, the message is still as relevant as it was back when this was released.
Yeah, and I don't think you have to be told it either. I think it's very in like what's the word I'm looking for? Like on the
Subtle.
nose. It's not subtle at all. It's
Right.
very in your face, you know. And what's so ironic about this movie is now the situation that the mall is going through with being purchased by a major company and then potentially being, you know, destroyed or whatever they're planning on doing with it. But yeah, I mean, I think I never looked at malls the same way after watching this. And what's so funny is looking at malls now compared to then. You know what I mean? I never looked at them the same way after Dawn of the Dead.
There's something really cool about malls too, like especially when you're like a kid, like the idea of like sleeping over in the mall or something, and like
Mhm.
getting to go take all the stuff that you want. Like, what store would you go to if you could spend the night in the mall or whatever? Like, you know,
Ooh.
that's what's cool about it. And then it takes on this other, you know, this like sinister tone.
I would for sure spend the whole entire night pretending to be a Hot Topic employee. And I would just I would just brood around the store with the tall t-shirt hook.
Yeah. What era of Hot Topic though? Are we talking about new era or
You mean modern day where there's nothing but Terrifier merch?
Terrifier and Hello Kitty stuff
Like, it's pretty sad.
and poppets
Dude,
everywhere, or pop figures?
Hot Topic was the shit back in the day, dude.
Dude,
Definitely a lot
Yeah.
different now.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jordan, are you ready to talk about the
I am. I'm excited.
What movies have you guys already talked about, by the way? Are we
Martin, Piranha, and Dawn of the Dead.
okay? Cool.
We still have 3 more.
Gotcha.
This one is my personal favorite movie of all time. It's ever since I was a kid, so I'm so happy to be talking about this one. But it's 1978's John Carpenter's Halloween.
Halloween.
Right here,
Mm.
such an incredible.
Oh yeah.
That's
There we
awesome.
go.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I'm not
it.
cool
Now I
enough
gotta
to have
get mine.
signatures on mine, but
I got to meet John last month, and it was one of the best
I'm so jealous.
Dude.
times ever. Got him to sign the Lionsgate Steelbook because this is my favorite release, I think.
We need like a screenshot of this.
Of just all.
Send it to John Carpenter.
My favorite of the 4 is this one where it looks like Michael Myers farted into the leaves.
He's kicking up smoke.
yeah, man. I mean, such a great, iconic, impactful film of its time, of the legacy it's left. Obviously, the same guy, John Carpenter, wrote, directed, composed. It's a simple idea that a movie takes place one time or one night on one holiday. I think the only one before this was Black Christmas, came out a little bit before that, but that wasn't even on Christmas, if I remember correctly. But I mean, obviously, it spawned off a slew of holiday movies. You have Silent Night, Deadly Night. You have got My Bloody Valentine. Like, it was the whole
April Fool's
holiday,
Day.
April
Yeah,
Fool's
it's another good
Day.
one.
The holiday horror genre, I guess if you can call it, was kicked off from Halloween. I don't know. Yeah, I guess you can say it kicked off Jamie Lee Curtis's career. I guess, I don't know. It could have helped film a little bit that her mom was Janet Leigh, of course. So she kind of paved her own path as, that era's scream queen at the time. I mean, there's so much you can talk about this movie. It's an incredible piece, I think.
It's funny in like the modern day where we tend to get these movies that are bloated with so much stuff, and there's always like a plot twist, and it's got to be complicated, and it's got to be this, and even
Mhm.
same with like the Halloween sequels, how they just got
Yep.
way too, and it's like you go right back to Halloween, and it's as simple as it gets, and
Yeah.
it's as
Mhm.
effective as it gets, to the point where it's like literally Michael Myers backlit standing next to somebody's house is a scarier frame than anything that came after it, no matter how complicated you make the lighting, no matter how artistic it gets.
Mhm.
um Halloween feels incredibly timeless no matter when you watch it. The music, and even down to the music, like there's no symphony score here. It was just a Casio.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I also think too, John Carpenter was never one for flashy visuals. He shot very all of his movies are shot just very traditionally. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Everything is very normal. There's not too much going on, and it works so well. I mean, you know, if you were to have a Halloween movie nowadays, you would never have Michael Myers just driving by your main characters. You know what I mean? Which he literally does in the beginning of Halloween. He just cruises on by.
Speed kills.
Yeah, yeah, speed kills. Um, yeah, I mean it's iconic, man. I don't really know kind of how to discuss it in a way that hasn't really been discussed before. I mean, for me as a kid, this was one of the scariest things ever, because I don't know where you guys grew up, but I grew up in a town that was very much like this. You know, like we would go on Halloween, we would go trick or treating around town, and this, even though it wasn't shot during the fall, and if you look in the distance, you can tell it wasn't shot
Yeah.
in the fall. Um, but like this is what Halloween felt like, down to the little
Mhm.
breeze in the air, everybody wearing the sweaters. There was an excitement around it. And who knows, man? We were little kids running around in ghost face masks. Like, yeah, there could have been some fucked up people out also kind of doing some shit like this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
What this movie does so well is its character, and they call the shape, is literally that he's the embodiment of evil. There's no connection. I mean, yeah, no connection until obviously they changed that with the second one. But you know, how he picks his victim is Lori puts the key under the mat at the Myers house, and he happens to be standing there and decides that's who I'm going to go after.
Mhm.
You know, there's no rhyme or reason to what he does, and why he picks off her friends, we don't know. I think they were just maybe in his way to get to Lori.
I have a question.
Hmm.
What do you guys think about the idea that maybe Michael decided to target Lori because she reminded him of Judith? They would have been around the same age when she died. And I think that, I mean, it could have easily been another teenage girl, but there's something about her that, you know, maybe he reminded him of his like first kill. Like, I like that kind of as a theory. It's
Mhm.
very, you know, it's kind of subtle. It's not really spelled out necessarily. Have you guys ever thought about anything like that?
That's interesting. The only thing though is it doesn't, and I know you literally just said they don't really expel on it all. You don't even really see Judith at
Yeah.
all in the beginning of Halloween. So you, at least visually, you don't see a connection between him and Judith. I mean, you might be able to argue his older sister.
Well, I think any way that you spin it, I think the movie gets less scary when you try to connect it to anything else. You know, like to me, when I put on Halloween, I don't think about the Halloween 2
Mhm.
Oh
sister. You know what I
no.
mean?
Yeah,
I
I
don't think
look at
about
it
any of
the
that.
way it was made, which is that in that in the context of Halloween 1, Halloween 2 was never a thought.
Right.
So
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
like that's Halloween 2 is just kind of stapled on, where for me I like to just enjoy the original for what it is.
For sure.
Like to me, the Halloween 2018, which I love, I'm a big fan of. But my favorite part of that is when he just starts, he gets the kids run into him, and then he just starts selecting targets. He's like, okay, all right, I'm gonna go back here. All right,
Mhm.
cool. I found a hammer. Oh, their back door's open. Okay, cool. And then, you know, he leaves. He kills the old lady. He kills the husband, and then he leaves and he notices, oh, look, there's somebody home next door. Okay, I'm gonna sneak around and go get that. Like that to me is so much scarier when there's
Mhm.
no.
Yeah.
To me, it's like the Strangers effect. I will never forget
sure.
watching Brian Bertino's The Strangers, and you're wondering the whole time, oh my god, they're being targeted for some reason. And at the end, they're just like, you were home,
Mhm.
and that makes that movie so much scarier. That there was no ulterior motive. It's just
Yeah.
that is
Well,
what it is.
you can argue in Strangers Pray at Night. It's simple. Why not? You know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or
that's how dark is that?
or
But
you can
it's
argue The Strangers Chapter 1 when they say, I think because you were home again. I think that's what they say. I think
it's the fact that
Well-
movie even came out.
The thing about
they're
Halloween
like,
that comes up a lot is just the motivation, right? Like the whole.
Mhm.
I feel like most fans like the fact that you don't know why he does it, and
Mhm.
I also like the ambiguity is my favorite part of it.
Mhm.
So it's like that part.
Absolutely.
You don't know why he does it, and you don't know if he's like supernatural or not. Like that's the best part. Like for me is like right, and it happens right at the end. So they don't give you enough time to like let it linger. Like it's sort of because he takes all those shots and then he's gone. So like the whole movie, you're kind of like, all right, this guy's really weird, but he's just a guy, right? And then in that moment, it poses this question. And it's like, well, now we don't really know, do we? Because no more people shouldn't be able to get up and walk away from that. And then the movie just leaves you on that. It doesn't linger and give you all these like explanations. It just kind of says, these are the facts as we're presenting them, and then you make up your mind.
Mhm.
What do you guys prefer? Do you prefer like more of just the randomness of him just being like a killer that's selecting obviously this group of victims, or do you like more of like the supernatural aspect of it? Like,
Oh, the latter for
Well,
sure.
couldn't you argue that it's a bit of both? Um, and as the film continues on, and that's why I say he's kind of the embodiment of evil. He's the devil's eyes. And maybe I'm nitpicking here. Being able to just hold up Bob and pin him to the wall with a kitchen knife.
I mean, to be
That's
fair, Bob did look like 110 pounds. To be fair.
okay. Moving the headstone, right, and putting
Yeah.
that into stuff like that. You're not going to
It's
be able to do that.
it's all things that are kind of stretching the boundaries of
Right.
logic, but it's not enough to kind of make you like take you out of the movie or anything.
Mhm.
But it's like those it's a good point, Jordan, because those things do kind of compound by the end of it, and then it's like, well, then he takes the shots from Loomis, and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, maybe there is something, because before it was enough to where you could just kind of wave it away, it's just a movie, whatever, and then by the end of
And
it, you're just not sure.
and that's where I talk about he kind of picks and selects because he is the shape. He's not. He's a featureless, faceless killer. That, like you said, no rhyme or reason. He is evil personified.
I always like to think that like right before Lori crosses the street, that like if another group of women of that age walked by, Mike would just like get distracted and like
I think
go with them. You know what I mean?
That's
Like
typically where I like to be at as well, right? Because
Mhm.
the way I think about it is, and that I love Halloween 2018 as well. But one of the worst things about that movie is the sort of legendary sort of this cementing Laurie as this like legendary icon. Like the whole point of Laurie, in my opinion, was that she was supposed to just be a very normal girl with nothing extraordinary about her. And that's sort of the why Michael picked her. Like she's not because it kind of puts her up on this pedestal or she's like this, she's not supposed to be like a badass and she's not supposed to like be able to fight. Like
Sarah
might be
Connor.
exactly. That might be a hot take. Some people can disagree. That's totally, that's just my opinion though. Like I always found it worked better when she is just sort of this normal girl,
Yeah. I think he I don't know if he would get distracted. Maybe to the sense of let me go take care of this, and then I'm gonna work my way back.
If I find the time, I'll work my way back.
Because
it
he
is
like
it is what it is.
I think he picked her when he's standing inside of his house, looking out that side window at her walking up to his front door. So okay, here's my victim. Here's who I'm gonna go after.
Yeah,
I like her. Why? I don't know, but I like her.
And not for any particular reason. She just
Right.
happened to be there. That's
It's
Now-
it's the randomness of it.
To your point of 2018, I think it is a little. I'm probably going to get people probably not going to like me saying this. I find it a little far fetched. I don't know if that's the right word. That what she went through is horrific. That is awful. But to hold on to it for 40, 50 years later, to build a compound, to get training and all this stuff over one little, I don't want to say little. I feel bad saying that, but something that happened that night. I don't know. I feel like that might be a little overkill because I would think, maybe she didn't, but I would think the average Joe out there would, not, I don't think would go to that length to almost hope that this Michael Myers gets out of containment just so she can go finish
She
it.
was waiting all those years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Like you had a
PTSD.
family, you had all this stuff.
It's PTSD to like the umpteenth degree. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
and like, what's funny is like Halloween 2018 came out at a time where like there's like Ring doorbells
Mhm.
and like all of this great security stuff that I can go on Amazon and buy right now. And like I feel like I could build, a pretty good compound that doesn't look anything like that, or like the one from Final Destination Bloodlines. You know what I mean? Like
With a whole mechanical island in your kitchen that
Yeah.
swings out. So you can-
the thing that was weird about that whole way they executed that was only the original is canon, but the way that she's acting like every other movie is canon because she's sort of treating him with this reverence and this fear that a whole franchise would warrant, not the one movie that's actually in this timeline. It's weird. Like they were trying to kind of have their cake and eat it too. Like, but there's this disconnect in the logic of the movie.
yeah, I feel like it comes together really well when you kind of bring in the daughter and kind of like how trauma is generational and how unbeknownst to what you're doing, you're carrying that drama on, or that trauma onto your children and stuff. I think especially 2018, like you're still filmmakers were still so obsessed with using trauma as a anchor to their characters. I think that they just ended up taking it too far. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I think there's great moments in that movie. Like, I actually think the best encapsulation of her trauma is when she's in the car, and she's drinking with the gun, and you have that rapid editing, and it cuts to Michael behind her. Like you see the shadow behind her.
Yeah.
As she and I think that sums it up better than the compound does, better than the swiveling.
Yeah,
kitchen.
it's a little too like it makes for a good visual. It's very like cinematic, but it doesn't quite work for me in the logic of the narrative.
Yeah, listen, man, I'm telling you right now, evil dies tonight.
Hey,
Oh,
you know
man.
what? Now
Oh,
that
man.
whole thing might have been. That's the only person I love. Halloween Kills,
Yeah, me too. I have fun with
and
it.
that one I can't. I think that's bad.
I can't get behind Halloween Kills.
But
I-
let's talk about that flashback scene to the
That
night.
flashback scene was
okay,
really
that's
good.
solid.
That
I
was
like-
perfect.
I really
one-
did like that flashback.
Is he up there?
The-
Is he up there? Did he kill again? That guy played a perfect Loomis. That was
He
great.
did
That was
good. He definitely did good.
The one thing that takes me out of it is the scene where they mistake him at the hospital.
Oh, so
And
awful.
I'm like their height sign, their build, nothing about them is remotely close, and yet you drove this guy, basically spoilers, to end up offing himself.
I just don't
And
know what I can play devil's advocate. I know why they put it there because it's the idea of who's really evil. Is it the idea
mob
of-
mentality.
Charles
mob
Cyphers
mentality.
literally says it to the camera, so everyone knows. He's like, now
Yeah.
he's turning us into monsters, and
we
I
are
hate how
we
Yeah.
are evil now. You know what I mean? We are all Michael Myers, which
Yeah.
I get why that aspect I get, but as in terms of a story, and if you're branching it, trying to anchor it to Halloween 78, it doesn't make sense to me.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a complete, you know.
Kills
don't
has
know.
fun stuff, but it has a lot of bad stuff too. Sorry.
What's real quick? The consensus on Halloween Ends.
I like Halloween Ends.
I like it.
Me too.
I
like
don't have
it.
a problem with it.
I like it more than Kills for sure. And I used to really hate Ends because I didn't know what to do with it. I couldn't quite figure it out. And then I've sat with it and watched it like 2 or 3 more times, and I actually like Ends a lot now.
Yeah, same. Okay, all right. I'm glad
is
we're
good.
all on that. I'm glad we're
Yeah.
all on that level.
Okay.
Because I can respect what it's trying to do. It feels like it's making compromises with itself, and I almost wish that it had gotten weirder than it does.
It does. Yeah, it does. I mean, that movie was rewritten what 12 times or something like that in like a year.
Yeah, it had some problems.
Crazy, right?
So what does this movie mean to you guys? Like, if you kind of going
It's
back
all
to oh,
I think
Yeah,
I'm with
Halloween, yeah.
I think I'm with Jordan, where like for me, this is my favorite horror movie, and I think it's the best horror movie ever made. Like, I think those can be two different things, but for me, they are the same thing where that's concerned.
mhm.
Like, that like I think it's just the best. It's the best slasher. It's just the best horror movie, and I mean, the fact that this was like a bucket list thing for me, getting to meet John and just obviously I didn't talk to him very long. I just kind of said hello and did my thing, but I'm just so glad I got to meet him. Like that's what this movie means to me.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
just how great it is. It's incredible.
My favorite thing that people do that I've noticed they do with John Carpenter, which you did, which was fine, is when people people will be like, yeah, I met Johnny up at the convention the other day. Like
Yeah.
normal, like when I say John, I say like John Carpenter. And it's funny when you hear like, yeah, when I met John, I'm like, wait, you mean John Carpenter? You mean that?
Hey,
Well, yeah,
Hey,
I just kind of left the last name
You're on a
off.
first name basis.
Have you met
We all
John
know who we're
Carpenter?
talking.
you're like, hey, Jonathan, how are you?
Have you met John Carpenter, Chris?
I haven't. No,
Well,
I'm
you're
seeing
not
him
on
in
a first
October,
name
though.
basis. So once you
Listen,
meet him, it changes
I-
things.
When I see him live on stage in October with my wife, I will make sure I scream to him like,
Dude,
"Go Johnny, go!"
That's
what I
gonna
mean?
be awesome.
Go,
I
John.
know.
I'm jealous, man.
That's gonna be dope.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's no better. I mean, there's plenty of great autumn horror movies, but to me, when September comes around, Halloween is like, and Halloween's one of those ones where I have to watch all of them.
Yep.
Like I don't just watch the first one. I'm through. I'm all the way there.
I could skip Resurrection. I might jump over that.
I might like do something else in another room while it's on.
Is
But,
this
you know.
what is like the movie that you guys save for the actual night of Halloween? Is this it? Because this is
Halloween.
it for me. Okay.
I'll sometimes
Yeah.
do double feature and watch two sometimes.
Yeah.
Just because they flow so well into each other. But it's Halloween for sure.
Can I throw in like a curveball on this? For
Throw
me, it's Tales of Halloween. I don't know if you guys
I
have ever
haven't seen that. It's an anthology, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
I haven't seen it.
I
Yeah,
can
it's like
think of
that or
the
Trick or
poster. I can think of the poster for that movie in my head, but I
With the
haven't seen
tree.
it.
Another good one, Trick or Treat.
Yeah,
Trick or Treat is really good.
I watched Night of
For
the Living
Halloween.
Dead too.
I'll usually
That's a
do
good
like
one.
I'll do a Halloween, or I'll do Trick or Treat, and sometimes I'll do Scooby Doo on Zombie Island because that was one that I
That's a
watched
good one.
when I was
You
a
guys
kid.
don't-
That was my shit.
You guys don't watch Halloween Town?
I could throw on Halloween Town. That's a nostalgic one for me.
Halloween
but
Town's a fun movie just to throw on and
yeah, dude, it's very
Carve
low
a pumpkin.
stakes. It's nostalgic for me. Like that was the shit when I was a kid. Disney Channel original movies, like watched all those, all the Halloween Towns, up until like the third one. I think were pretty good. Good.
They still do those. Is that still a thing?
Ooh, I don't know.
they're on Disney Plus. That's where I watch the first one.
Oh. Yeah.
No 4K deluxe release of Halloween Town.
Dude, if they did it, I I can't lie and say I wouldn't buy it.
Jordan's like, I'm looking at you, second sight.
Yeah,
on.
but it's Disney. Like, there's
Give
no
me a
way.
one click.
They would never.
Yeah.
They would never do it.
So, can I talk about the next movie that we picked real quick?
Which one?
Yeah, I think we're ready
I gotta
to.
look at my list.
Yeah.
I think we're ready to move to the next movie.
So, because I feel like this is going to be controversial. I think there was a moment before I talk about the movie, right? I'm actually looking at a poster of Wes Craven's The Last House on the Left.
Mm.
That's on my wall here, right? And this, anytime I post a picture or anything of the movie room, I feel like I get a comment about The Last House on the Left poster here, because there is a kind of like a black cloud over this genre, right? The SA assault genre, assault genre. You know what word I'm saying.
The grape.
Grape. Yes. Oh my God, you just brought me back to the remember that YouTube video? I'm gonna grape you. Oh, sorry.
The grape is.
Yeah, the grape is.
I don't know
Yeah,
what you're talking about.
All right,
I don't
guys.
know what
videos
YouTube you're
Time to
watching,
shut it
but-
down.
that video is hilarious.
YouTube,
I know
sorry.
Rapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
YouTube.
The movie den is no more.
I've always stood on the ground that movies like are not made for everybody, and they're not designed to be comfort food, right? There are movies that are meant to be challenging, whether you agree with the subject matter or not. And for everybody that hates a certain movie, like we're going to talk about, there's somebody who loves it. And I won't put myself in a category of I love this movie. It's not something that I watch very often, but it's a movie that had an incredible impact on me for both the subject matter, the amount of balls that it had, and an incredible third act. And that's all leading up to Zia Marquis' I Spit on Your Grave.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I remember showing my wife this movie, and it's almost like a. Now, I do want to say, I think there's worse movies out there. Like, content-wise, there's a lot worse out there. I mean, there's whole genres of film that are so much worse than this. Unearthed Films is putting them all out in 4K right now. That that label's wild. But I remember I Spit on Your Grave just being like an exercise in like an endurance, and it just keeps going, but
Mhm.
it pays off so well in that third act when she is able to get back. I think it
Mhm.
makes all of it worth getting through just for that final half hour when she finally gets back at them. I
Well,
don't know
and
how
I
you
love-
guys feel about that.
I love the way she gets back at them, which is she preys on their weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Exploiting them.
Yes, and I think that is just excellent. And the fact that they fall for it is crazy.
Yeah, what's wild to me about that is like imagine like she shows up and is like, luring them in, and they're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, yeah, we just did this, thing to you," and like, "Oh, now you're okay. Yeah, perfect,"
But I
And then
guess
like,
no harm, no foul.
dude, I don't think you'd be hard pressed to find a more challenging scene to watch than the bathtub scene
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
in this movie. I mean,
Stomach
Mark,
turning.
you look like you just finished the movie. Is the expression you're giving off right now? Are you a fan of this one?
This and Martin were the two on our list tonight that I haven't seen.
Oh, man.
And you mentioned earlier that these kinds of movies are like hard to watch, and you're not always in the right mood for them. Like this and like Last House on the Left
Mm-hmm.
are two big blind spots for me. So I don't hate this subgenre necessarily. I don't find it like too extreme or anything. As a matter of fact, I was gonna watch this movie last night, but I had an awful day at work, and then I came home and I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to subject myself to right now.
Yeah.
I really wanted to watch it though, because it's been on my list for a very long time and everything. But so I've seen movies like Revenge. Have you guys seen Revenge?
Oh yeah.
The other film from the Substance director. So like, I feel like that's like Disney Channel compared to this, right? Like, would that be a fair statement?
Yeah.
In terms of just how gratuitous and uncomfortable it is.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Mir Zarki had pretty much ripped off Last House on the Left, but decided to do it with none of the like Last House on the Left. There's a
Is it like the same plot? I'm sorry to cut off. Okay, is it are they like the same kind of plot? Because I feel like they are, right?
not
I haven't
so
seen
Subject
either
matter,
one.
but I don't know if plot would be the same.
yeah. So I
Okay.
Spit on Your Grave is I think she goes. I always forget. Is she a writer?
She's a
Yeah.
writer. She
Yeah.
rents out a house by a lake.
Yeah,
Okay.
and she meets this group of really scuzzy locals at a gas station when asking for directions, and they follow her. They know where she's staying, and they proceed to, you know, torment her for the night because they're just scuzzy locals. And then she gets her revenge on them. Unlike Last House on the Left, where Last House on the Left, they commit the assault and then they show up at the house of the parents
Mm-hmm.
who they don't know, and the parents get the idea. The parents realize what's happening from the necklace.
Mm.
Is it, or is it like a bracelet? I forget. What did they see?
Yeah, they make
don't
the
remember.
correlation that obviously they had the affiliation with the daughter.
Yeah, and then
But-
the parents exact revenge.
Right.
It's
Oh, that's right.
yeah. I like that this is distinct in the sense that it's obviously our main character that is the one that's getting the revenge, whereas like Last House on the Left is the parents. So
Mhm.
I feel like that they stand on their own in that own right. But I'll tell you what, like the payoff for this, I mean, it's intense, but it's worth what you have to sit through to get to that point.
The I would argue that I Spit on Your Grave is a little, I don't know, harder. It's hard to say, harder to watch or a little more intense than Last House on the Left, because the scene lasts like half an hour.
It's very mean spirited,
And it doesn't stop. It does not stop. It's like one of those, you think it's over, but they're gonna reel you right back in.
Mhm.
And
I
it's
mean,
unrelenting.
literally the assault takes place over like 3 different locations. Like it keeps going. And it just keeps going and it
Yeah,
keeps going.
see, like I want to, like, remember earlier I was saying like horror fans who are trying to do their due diligence like should watch these specific movies and check the box, right? Like I feel like those two are like the figurehead for the sort of grape revenge subgenre, and like I need to check. I need to watch them. I need to check them out and
Well,
just
I won't knock anyone who doesn't want to watch these. I'll just say that. Like, I get it. If you don't want to watch these, you don't want to watch these.
That's why it's taken me so long, right?
Yeah.
Like I've always been curious. I know I would, get some level of enjoyment out of it. Obviously not for the wrong reasons or whatever. Like, but
Well, for the
payoff,
impact. Yeah, the impact
yeah,
is
and
really
it's
bad.
I don't think anyone watching, maybe there are, but I don't think anyone watching these movies is like watching them for that specifically, right? Like that, you're doing it for, the justice that is being served ultimately.
Yeah, and I just think too, because we brought up this question over and over again of why is this on the list? I think I think when you're exploring the history of something, you have to see all sides of it. You know what I mean? This subject matter, I mean, there are scenes in Death Wish that are just as cruel
Yeah.
as a subgenre. You know what I mean? Like Death Wish is this highly regarded action revenge thriller, but there's a very intense grape scene in that movie, and people kind of like forget because it has Jeff Goldblum. Nobody ever brings that up, and Death Wish 2 has an even more brutal one. So this was sort of a recurring thing in the late 70s, and I Spit on Your Grave is meaner than Last House on the Left. And grimier and dirtier. But I think if you're going to do a deep dive into a genre, you need to cover a wide range of what was happening. And for Halloween to be on the one end of this, I think I Spit on Your Grave sits on the other end as far as where horror goes from here. You know what I mean?
And I think that the issues that are brought up in this is like I was reading a little bit more into this movie and how it was perceived. But what I think is interesting is that some could view this as some level of female empowerment where others might see it as exploitative. So, it's kind of up to the audience to make that determination on how you view this film. And Obviously, universally across the board, there is that payoff by the end of it, but um, I don't know. It's a pretty tough watch. It's not something that I feel like I could just actively sit down and just casually throw on.
Yeah.
I have a question, and it's more of a morality question of one of the characters. Is Matthew? Do you guys remember
Mhm.
Matthew? He's the one who's he's slower.
Mhm.
Would you consider him in a way a victim in this whole scenario?
He rolls with the wrong people, that's for sure.
Is
Right.
it almost like a Leatherface sort of thing where like
Yeah, the
in,
one friend.
in a way Leatherface is kind of a victim. He's obviously not all
Victim
there.
of his environment. He is taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Because you set aside the other characters, the other three guys. He's the one that struggles with it the most. He knows what he's doing is wrong, and he's contemplating it. And there's even a scene where he almost goes to help her up. Let's go. I'm going to get you out of here. But the other guys wear him down until the very, very end.
Could you like make that almost like in a way, not obviously we know that he's like a little bit like slow or whatever, but I would say that he's more of like the in a way like kind of like the viewpoint for the audience, like the confliction between like what's going on. Like you feel wrong for obviously being like someone that's viewing what's going on. He's the only one that I think had any level of like somewhat remorse, I think, for what happened.
Yeah.
What's really important here, I think, especially when it comes to writing and building a film and building characters, are you have to establish what level are we talking about here, right? Like, and he, as a character, he's not helpless. You know what I mean? He has that moral thing. So it becomes a conversation, like Jordan, I think it's a really good point, because it's like he's falling to the peer pressure, and at one point basically threats from the people who love him to commit this act. But at the end of the day, is that a crutch that you can lean on when you look
That's
back
true.
and say like, hey, more like, because he, at the end of the day, he was still an able-bodied person who could have made the final decision of, no, I'm not going to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So
true.
once the decision is made, no matter how you're pushed to do it, the consequence on you and the consequence on them is no different. You all have done now the same thing. It doesn't matter if you were pressured into it or if you made the decision on your own.
Yeah.
I would argue that this film also, like, for the time, definitely pushed the envelope as far as subject matter. I mean, I think that that's like, when we're looking at these films from this decade, I would say that this and even Last House on the Left, I mean, they're definitely really pushing the limits of like what you could really do at that time for film. And
Mhm.
I definitely think it's something that you can't overlook, regardless if it's something any of us come back to or not. I mean, these
Yeah.
films had their place.
And I think what's important too to understand is that I Spit on Your Grave has a much larger footprint than Last House on the Left does. I Spit on Your Grave has a remake and 4 sequels
Hmm.
to that remake, including a new film that was directed by Zia Markey that had the original actress return back to this role. You know what I mean? Like, and a documentary. Like, this movie has a big footprint. Like and to varying degrees. Last House on the Left, you just have the original and the remake.
Hmm.
And I'm part of the crowd with the remake of Last House on the Left that's actually crueler and meaner and completely missed the point of the original film. I'm not a big fan of the remake. So it's interesting, man, because I think I Spit on Your Grave kind of gets, I mean, that title alone is pretty impactful. You know what I mean? Like, that title is very in your face.
Well, what was the other title it had? Because it had 2 titles.
Day of the Woman.
Yes.
Yeah, which there's your female empowerment part. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, that's
justice.
Yeah. So it's, I think it's interesting, man. I think you need to like, in order to get where we're at, as far as like, not, I'm not going to say where we're at, but when people say like, hey, I'm going to, commit myself and take a deep dive into the history of horror, you have to see all ends of it. There's stuff that we've watched that we'll never watch again. But it helps shape and helps understand, because a lot of, like, you look at Last House on the Left, and they kind of cover that movie up as like a post Vietnam, which is what we're dealing with a lot here in this era. Post Vietnam, we were talking about women's rights, and there's all kinds of stuff going into why these directors or these writers are telling these stories. And you can take them as like BS, or you can take them at face value. But I think if you're going to go back and you're going to go back to 1978, I think you need to go through the experience of this movie. And like I said in the beginning, I think movies are meant to be challenging, and there's a difference between challenging as far as like a Serbian film, where it's like just sick for the sake of sick, and there's no moral payoff, there's no moral compass. It's just sick, or The Human Centipede, where it's just sick. It's just meant to sicken you out. I Spit on Your Grave arguably has one of the strongest female empowerment endings ever.
Yeah.
So look at it just from that point of view,
For sure.
I think it's a good litmus test for somebody's like ability to have empathy as well. Like,
Absolutely.
I think if you come away from a movie like this, obviously I haven't seen it, but I can imagine, and it doesn't disturb you on some level, like, obviously that's like kind of a problem. Like, that's sort of the whole point of the movie, right? So
call 911.
Yeah.
Immediately.
And I something I noticed about the 6 movies that you guys picked, because Martin is a vampire movie, right? And that's also who else? Who did that? Is that also Romero?
Yeah.
He did both these movies in the same year?
Well, they were filmed differently.
Or was it like a delayed release or something for Martin?
No, Martin, and we actually had this discovery live. Martin was shot in the summer of 76. Dawn of the Dead was shot in November 1977.
Okay, cool. Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's really interesting because you've got a very seminal zombie film, you've got a seminal slasher, you've got a creature feature in Piranha. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is probably one of the biggest sci-fi horror films ever. And then you've got this, which is sort of, 1A and 1B with Last House and this of like the sort of Grape Revenge subgenre. And then obviously Martin is sort of it's like a take on a vampire film, right? It's a little
yeah.
Right. So these are sort of a lot of different cornerstones of horror that you guys hit on.
What's really funny is every time you say Grape Revenge, my brain doesn't like, my brain knows you said that, but it treats it like you actually said it, the word.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, Grape Revenge. Yep. Grape. Yep.
You just gotta say it real casually. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well, do you guys want to move on to
Yeah.
Let's do it.
to that final pick? Who wants to kick this one off?
Let's go with
what we're talking about.
Mark. Why don't you kick this one off?
I don't know if I'm the best one to do that because
Drive us home.
I've only seen this film one time as well, and it would have been a year or two ago. But I have the Kino Lorber 4K.
Ooh.
Nice.
No slip on it, but I think this has some cool reversible art, if I'm not mistaken.
I love that artwork.
It's got the theatrical poster on the other side that you guys probably are familiar with, and then this one I thought was a lot cooler. But no, man, this one's real. It's a little more, if I remember correctly, it's a little on the slower end, but it's intentional because
ugly.
Nice.
It's supposed. See, that's nice.
That's a nice one.
It's a little slower, but from what I remember. But I think that's in service of the fact that it's trying to like lull you into this sort of state of paranoia. This movie has a lot in common with The Thing, I would think. Just in terms of like not knowing who to trust, and even down to the way that like the sort of alien takes you over. Like it kind of needs some time to take over you completely. And if you catch it like in the middle, then you obviously can deduce that this is a copy. So that there's that component of it as well. I remember they're in like this mud bathhouse or something,
Yeah.
and that's where they discover one of the pods. So question for you guys: have you seen the original from, I think it's like 1950 something? And then how many more of these did they make? I think there's like 4 or 5 Body Snatchers.
Well, I think Invasion, if we're talking like straight,
Yeah.
just
straight remake
2.
of that same story.
But I think they have done it like, who was it? Arrow just did one not too long ago, The Invasion with Daniel
Nicole
Craig.
Kidman.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a take on it.
Okay.
But I think straight, I don't want to say rip off, but you know what I mean, remakes. I think it's just the 2.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers, to me, this one, the 78 one, was always like, it felt like prestigious horror. Like this was kind of like the elevated, like,
yeah,
hey, we're gonna make horror, but it's not really horror. I mean, it's
more psychological. It's a lot of implied things about
like
what this
Jeff
would
Goldblum,
actually be like.
Yeah, you have Jeff Goldblum, you have
Ryan's right.
like,
There's also the
Donald Sutherland.
Donald
it's
Sutherland's
very
really good in this.
Yeah, it's very like you could tell there's like almost like a sense of like you almost feel like a Francis Ford Coppola could have picked this up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or like a Brian De Palma or something. Like
this feels like one for the Oscars, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's got that sort of higher. I don't know how else to articulate it. It's sort of just got a higher quality to it. It feels a little more prestigious. And it doesn't rely so much on gore or anything like too gratuitous. Like there's not heaps of blood. It's a movie that's definitely going to ask you to meet it on its own terms and go along for the ride, because it doesn't pay off right away.
It's definitely a slow burn for sure.
It's creepy.
It's very eerie, like you said. It's one of those that messes with you. Because you don't know who's who. I mean, even all the way up to the very last shot of the movie, you're not sure.
Yeah, dude.
You're not 100% sure. I think it's got one of the nastiest scenes is when the plant like births the copies. Is absolutely disgusting. When Donald Sutherland's sacked out and he's like inside of his own tropical rainforest, and then those like they slither out. Oh, it's gross.
Hashtag sacked out for this episode.
Yeah, right.
Boys are sacked out.
Yeah,
but no, it's
no. I would going off what you were saying, Jordan. I feel like it plays on a lot of like the paranoia and questioning identity. And I would also say there's like kind of like the confliction between conformity and individuality. I can't talk. But I think that there's definitely a lot you could dissect with this film, with like more of the subtle messages that it's alluding to. I think above all else, like the paranoia and identity is definitely the 2 that come to mind.
Well, it's super scary. That's a very, you go back to, the 50s, even into the 60s. I think paranoia was an incredibly, even into the 80s with John Carpenter's like They Live. The fact of like these skinwalkers, which is like still covered today and still just as scary. The other day I was in Barnes and Noble, and this is a really weird story, but I was just watching people for a minute because there was like a group of people in the store, and I was like, "There's no way these are real people." You know what I mean? Like, I was like, these guys weren't like, like they're not. People don't do this. Like, it's just a weird one. I don't know. That's a really scary thing though. And Invasion of the Body Snatchers it's gross. Like the pods are gross. Even that first kitchen that Donald Sutherland goes in, it's gross. Like
like what I want to touch on something that Chris mentioned just a second ago, and the fact that the paranoia of the context of this movie and when each kind of remake has come out, I think it's very important, and I think it's really intentional because when this movie comes out in like 56, the original, the implications of like society and like where people are at just in general is a lot different. And then but it's almost sort of universal, right? Because when they do it again in the 70s, like this one that we're talking about right now, it brings over those same themes, but it takes on a different context because of where society is at. And that's what I think is really cool about remakes, like movies like this. Like you could say the same thing about The Thing as well, and that original and that remake, and just how cool it is that, you know, these movies can sort of take those same ideas and, you know, in a sense they'll always be timeless ideas in that sense.
Yeah, I don't think this is not a plot point that will ever wear out.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, and I think many different directors can take a stab at it in different ways. You know what I mean? And I think that we might even be, to an extent, discrediting the impact that this movie had going forward, because you can have two extremes, right? You can have The Thing,
Mhm.
Good comment from Brian
yeah,
there.
with Brian,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's what I mean. I didn't have specific examples because I'm not the biggest history buff, but and I don't want to talk out of my ass, but he definitely seems like he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, because like you have The Thing, which is the extreme end, right? Where you have extreme effects, extreme scares. You have everything's extreme, but then you
Yeah.
have you can go as far as, you know, I would say more subtle would be like almost like They Live, because They
Mhm.
Live is it's not like extreme in any sense. And it's funny because I remember watching They Live not long ago, and I put on Instagram, I was like, dude, this movie's like actually more relevant today,
No,
Mhm.
I feel
100%.
like, than
It definitely
any other
is.
time, you know? So this is, I think, I I think the 50s invasion of the Body Snatcher obviously is important. I think the 70s is when it really becomes, you know,
Yeah.
like as impactful as possible. I mean, the ending alone of this movie
Mhm.
is terrifying. Thanks to Donald Sutherland, thanks to that performance, you know, and the finger
Yeah.
point and stuff.
The
Um,
screeching.
the
Yeah.
screeching.
Do you guys think that The Thing sort of takes a lot of the shine, perhaps incidentally, obviously through no malicious intent or anything, but I feel like The Thing sort of takes a lot of the shine from maybe this particular subgenre, where, and I think it's because, most likely because of all the effects. Like if you took this same movie and just kind of cranked up all the effects and the kills, and I think this might have been received better by your average horror fan, just because the way it is now, it is a little bit of a slow burn. It doesn't rely so much on effects and kills, and it is just a bit more psychological. Do you think it kind of thing is just maybe more a little bit more mass appeal?
Yeah, I would think so.
Mhm.
I mean, you're still 4 years out at this point. You know what
Yeah,
I mean, from The Thing. But I think The Thing found a way to, because I mean, even for a long time, Invasion of the Body Snatchers was never interesting to me. You know what I mean? I never really heard much about it. I think I knew of the ending
I agree.
right.
because of
I
like the
saw The
top.
Thing way before I saw this.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like I
Mhm.
think I saw the ending in like the top 101 scariest movie moments on Bravo.
Yeah,
But there was like it wasn't until I started diving into, I feel like, I hate using this word, but like higher class movie, like more prestigious directors, more prestige,
yeah.
did it come around, because The Thing is uh, like a wet dream for anybody into the genre, you
It's one
know?
of the if someone is just getting into horror and you polled like 100 diehard horror fans and you asked them for like the first, I don't know, 3 horror movies that you need to
Mhm.
watch, I guarantee that The Thing would be on at least 50% of those people's lists. And I don't think one of them, out of the 100 people, one of them might say Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That's
I
not
feel
to
like
say this isn't a great film. It's just not as, it doesn't have that same mass appeal, you know?
I definitely felt like it took me a while to eventually get around to seeing this movie, just because, at least in my friend groups, this wasn't a movie that was talked about as much. Like, I think I knew that it was out there, but it wasn't until I actually had a chance to like dive into it and check it out and really develop a sense of appreciation for. I mean, it wasn't until years later compared to when I saw, the Thing. The Thing was very
Right.
early
Yeah.
on, that Halloween,
Yeah.
very early on when I was getting into movies like that.
I Invasion of the Body Snatchers to me is it's almost like horror that would be released on Criterion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
that's like kind of how it's treated. But I do want to bring up real quick. I went on to I'm on a Reddit thread about movies similar in tone, right? And there's some that we kind of forgot to bring up. One of them being The Faculty.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good
That's
one.
like a modern, where I say modern, but it's a more modern retelling of essentially the story, but with
Yeah.
like a scream shell.
Yeah,
Attached-
and
attached.
Night of the Creeps.
Yeah,
The
that's a
Creeps
good
is
one.
another
Okay.
one.
Yep.
Yeah, Night of
I
the
love
Creeps.
that movie.
Also, which I completely forgot about, Body Snatchers from '93.
Yep.
It's
David
another.
Guerra.
So
Yeah.
all those
adaptation of
movies
it.
you just mentioned are like way more fun to watch than this movie. This movie's a little bit more serious. It
Yeah.
asks a little bit more of you. And it's just not as fun of a time where like The Faculty, Night of the Creeps, those are both very fun movies, So it's almost like they
Yeah.
took this idea and like kind of made them a little more palatable to your average horror fan.
Yeah, there's also
Yeah, I would say Jason Goes to Hell.
It's definitely adjacent, I would say, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
honestly, most recently, because Google AI just brought it up. Did anybody see the movie on Hulu, which was incredible? No One Will Save You.
Yeah, good
Mm-mm.
movie.
No.
That's like a body snatching. There's an element of body snatching because it takes over people and they're normal. You know what I mean? Like they're pretty. Yeah, disturbing behavior was another one that came up. There's a lot.
Katie Holmes.
Katie Holmes, bro.
Good
Smoking
movie.
a cig, bro.
Hell yeah, bro.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
But yeah, Invasion of Body Snatchers to me was always very like it's like I remember when I watched what did I watch for the first time on Criterion? What's the other movie with Donald Sutherland that
Don't look
Criterion
Don't
has
Look
out?
Now.
Yeah, Don't Look Now.
Yeah.
This
Like I
feels
remember-
this feels adjacent to that movie.
yeah, it's like that higher and it's almost like what Signs of the Lambs became of the 90s.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, this is a thriller. This is you're like
Yeah, it's almost like
really a horror movie.
hiding the fact that it's a horror movie in a way. Like they're ashamed of it. I don't know. That might be a stretch, but it's like it's not as much of an outright horror movie, at least for most of it, because a lot of it is like people talking and I'm not saying that that's bad, but it doesn't grab you as much.
Yeah.
For sure.
Jordan, make sure you screen grab that for a real Mark says people talking in horror movies is bad.
Oh, I'm already downloading this. This is going to be
Oh,
real
dude,
for the
no.
nice.
Tales from the Shelf says talking in movie.
Except for Wives by Snatcher.
Yeah.
I do. Same with Get Out.
Yeah.
Except for Wives. Yeah.
I
'Cause
remember
Get Out-
Stepford Wives. I saw that when I was a kid.
I think Get Out is hypnotism, right? It's like that's
Yep.
I haven't seen that since it came out, but yeah, it's like hypnotism.
Get-
Us?
Yeah.
I feel
Get
like
Out.
those are like adjacent to this. Like,
Us. I could see Us.
Us is like just you have a duplicate.
Yeah. You know what's funny is I was watching this and Art Hindle's in this. Who was in The Brood and all that.
That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
clown, right? The art. Sorry.
Anyways,
Different art.
it just dawned on me. I was watching this. Anybody's noticed he looks just like Peter Dinklage, but not.
Wait, hold on. Hold on. Let me
Look at this up. I'm telling you, dude, he looks like Peter Dinklage, but
it's a pretty stacked
Oh.
cast for this movie, though.
yeah, you have Leonard Nimoy's in this.
Dude,
Veronica
he looks
psychiatrist.
Veronica Cartwright.
looks
Doesn't he?
exactly like Is Art Hindle's from he's from The Brood, right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's the husband, the dad.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god. He does kind of look like Peter Dinklage.
No, he looks just like Peter Dinklage.
Now having Leonard Nimoy, because Star Trek would have been very popular at this time. So having that sort of sci-fi connection as well. Obviously, you got Jeff Goldblum before he would do The Fly.
Yeah.
And then I think Donald Sutherland also just brought a level of prestige.
Level of class.
Well,
Yeah.
this would have been a year before Alien for Veronica Cartwright.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
crazy.
I was going to bring this up because clearly, we're moving. We're going to keep going with these, and because I think that this is like the best idea we could have thought of
Hmm.
for like a continuing series.
Mhm.
And we're right on the cusp of like talking about revolutionary years
Yeah.
for the genre. You know what I mean? Like talking like we're just peeking the corner of things changing heavily. I mean, 1979 alone, I mean, I'm just glancing. You have Alien, Phantasm, Zombie,
Amityville.
Amityville, The Brood, Nosferatu the Vampire, Tourist Trap, Driller Killer, When a Stranger Calls. Like, there's so much 1 year away. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Allison's birthday. Like, there's so much going on right around the corner. You know what I mean? Which is incredible to me.
And then you hit 1980, and it's just like
The floodgates are just open at that point.
it's
Yep.
just go time. No, you guys probably talked about it before I got on, but just the 70s in particular, the late 70s with the horror genre was just things were changing dramatically. The things that you could do, like people were making horror movies and making them like dramas, and like that wasn't really a thing that you had seen before. Like where before it was like a lot of Hammer horror movies and like
Mhm.
it was just classic monster films basically. And you probably had the odd one here or there. There's always exceptions to the rule, but as the 70s sort of started and continued all the way throughout, it was just this evolution of the genre in every way that you could think of, where
Yeah.
the slasher thing was started with Black Christmas, TCM, Halloween, Dawn of the Dead, with the zombies. It was like everything was really taking root in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things we're right at the cusp of the in the UK with the video nasties.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So there's so much in the headlines about genre at this point going into the 80s. You know what I mean? Like this is when horror starts to bleed out and parents are hearing more about it or other people are
Mhm.
hearing more about it. It's becoming national headlines, right? Like
Coming
it's-
MTV, like it's
Yeah.
sort of breaching into the pop culture.
Yeah, and you had, for the first time, movies are coming out with there's just no restriction. People are telling their stories and they're impactful and heavy. And you also have kind of like the accessibility to the 70s were like the boom of the like I don't even know in the 60s. Could you really categorize many movies as like low budget?
The
You know what I mean?
advent
Like-
of home video allowed people to make movies themselves and just distribute them. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think movies like The Video Dead. You guys
Oh,
seen that one?
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
like just feels like someone just made it for $5,000 in their backyard. Like, and there's something
Like a
just
passion
awesome.
project.
There's just something awesome about that. Like you were
Well,
getting that before.
You also, you're moving to the 80s, kind of touching on what Chris said. The parents are starting to get an idea of, hey, what's out there. You've got the Satanic Panic is really rolling around about the 80s. So that's a huge thing when it comes into the ratings board and what is allowed and what's not allowed. And I think that also comes into play with the low budget, backwoods home video SOV films that you start to see
Yeah.
pop up around that time.
Evil
Is
Dead.
the Evil Dead to fly
Yep.
under that radar of those ratings boards, because like they said, around that time that was a big thing. The Satanic Panic, everyone was scared that they were going to watch the Evil Dead and their kid was going to go to school and do crazy stuff. So I think that's something really important to talk about when we start moving forward into the 80s.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but also too, you have I just had like a brief thought in my head of like, Mom, I went to the library and I was reading the Necronomicon. You also have this. You have so much outside influence. You have Italian films bleeding into the U.S. You have Italian influence bleeding into the U.S. You have, Jean Rollin, we talked about earlier, French filmmaker. He's bleeding in. Jess Franco from Spain. he's bleeding in, and US influence is landing in Italy, and it's landing in other, there's so many territories now, and all those territories, like, what was accepted in the US was not accepted somewhere else, and what was not accepted in the US was accepted somewhere else. And you have this kind of um influence happening, I mean, all the way up through 2003 with High Tension. High Tension for the new French Wave Extremity was huge, because France is like, hey dude, we're not allowed to show violence, but we're allowed to show nudity. And the US is allowed to show violence, they're not allowed to show nudity, so we're just going to put all that together. That's what's happening in this time in the 70s and 80s, and it's causing like this global panic, you know what I mean? And there's so much, like, I feel like accessibility was really starting to get out there, and it's all just influencing each other. You just have this melting pot of sex and violence and really, I think, expression.
Yeah.
Like, people coming out of Vietnam, like, people are angry, they're upset, they're mad, and all of those emotions are bleeding into subject matter on your film, which you can keep relating all the way up to September 11th with the rise of torture porn as a response to not only the anger that we were facing as a country, because torture porn was mostly a US influence, you know what I mean? But then you can actually statistically see films kind of get softer in its portrayal of violence the further we get out from 2001, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So this is really the point where I think you can start tracing these trends and these patterns and connecting them directly to worldwide events, and saying like, hey, look, this is the world at this point politically, this is where our climate was at, and our movies portray that perfectly. So I think from this point out, these conversations are just going to get more and more specific, and more like, not specific is the wrong word, more and more like varied, and more interesting. You know what I mean? As we start getting into these bigger films and these more influential pieces.
Yeah, I know I was late tonight, guys, but I would love to come back and do the 79 or the 80, whatever episode. I'm sure you're gonna have a revolving door of guests, but I think it's a great idea, and I was really happy to be a part of it. And
yeah, man,
I would
It was
love
a lot
to.
of fun.
Well,
I would love to.
Is there any way we can make Mark just like a recurring, like, part of this crew every year? I mean, if he's down,
I know you did one before this, right? Is this
Mhm.
technically the second episode?
yeah, this is our first time where we're focusing on just 1 year. The one before we did like 7 years.
Okay, interesting. No, dude, it's hard for me with the summer. Weekdays are better, because weekends, like, it's so inconsistent. Like, otherwise I wouldn't have agreed. To be on it. Like, sometimes I'll get out right when I'm supposed to be done work. Other times, it can vary. So yeah. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, man. This was a lot of fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I can't wait for 79, man. And I'm actually gonna rewatch everything.
Yeah, I want to as well, because that would give me an excuse to rewatch Phantasm, which I've been wanting to.
Well,
do.
we need to put a list together, because there might be one or two that I need to go pick up. So give me some time.
Bro,
yeah,
you gotta go pick up the Driller Killer.
Are we locked in at like 6 movies per year? Is that kind of the way we're looking to do it, or
do you guys want to build the list live real quick?
We certainly could. I know you rattled off some stuff earlier. I feel like you have to have Alien,
Phantasm,
Zombie.
Yeah, I mean, Alien,
Zombie, of course.
Gotta have those. So like those 3 feel like a lock, right? And then what else do we have?
I definitely think, I mean, maybe it's up to you guys, but I definitely think the Driller Killer.
I'd be down to watch that. I, mean, I haven't seen it before.
It's Abel Ferreira. You know what I mean?
I would watch that.
That's a big one. Let's see.
So what about Amityville?
Amityville. Gotta have that.
How many do we have right now?
That's 5.
That's 5.
You guys, Tourist Trap?
Tourist Trap.
Well, let's see. Let me look. I would honestly probably put my vote into The Brood.
Yeah.
You gotta have Cronenberg. Like.
So what?
Yeah,
what
I mean, we could also do. I mean, I love this movie. I'm sure nobody else would though. But we could also do Killer Nun. I don't know if you guys are a fan
never
of that
seen
one,
Killer
but,
Done.
Arrow Video put
I'm
that
down
out.
for
Right?
some nunsploitation movies.
Yeah.
What was the Alien, Amityville, Driller Killer, Phantasm, The Brood? There's one more.
Alien, Phantasm, Zombie, Driller Killer,
Zombie.
Amityville Horror, and The Brood. You also have the infamous. I don't know if you guys have ever seen "Don't Go in the House."
That's a good one. That's a
That's
really good one.
That's also 1979. See, it's going to start getting hard because you have Joe D'Amato's Beyond Darkness, which also comes out 1979. When a Stranger Calls, 1979.
Listen, oh my God, Beyond Darkness might have to. That might have to be one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think like we need to like
Or Beyond the Darkness. Sorry.
There's so much.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like
We should definitely try to cover as many subgenres as we can, I feel like, as well, right? Just to kind of give as adequate of a picture as possible.
yeah. I mean, Alien, you're getting into that sci-fi. Zombie, you're getting into Italian. Driller Killer is that heavy exploitation, video nasty level.
I mean, Salem's Lot came out, that miniseries.
That's true.
Do you want to count miniseries in? Because like
I think
I've always looked at it as a movie, basically.
It was
right?
Salem's Lot. I mean, I think that's pretty iconic.
I haven't seen Salem's Lot either. That 3-hour runtime has been putting me off.
Okay, so
but I would watch it for this.
I think this is so. Let's talk about impact, because I might argue, if we're going to get into that territory, that
what do you guys consider a lock? Alien?
I feel like those first 5, I feel like Amityville is got to be a lock. Alien,
Phantasm
and Zombie are all 4 of those, and
then we have the Brood, and we have Driller Killer,
and then Brood, yeah, for the Cronenberg of it, the body horror. So I feel like those 5 have to be, and then like the 6 feels like a flex slot right there. Like that could be anything.
So let's see. I'm gonna put into, because I think Steve's the only one who's gonna be with me here. I will vote to replace Driller Killer with Salem's Lot, because I think impact, Salem's Lot is much more influential than Driller Killer.
I mean, yeah, we can do that.
It would give us an opportunity to talk briefly about the remake that came out last year as well.
I still haven't seen that.
It was fine.
Mark, you're not telling me on it.
It was fine. Well, that's I don't know.
I love the book, and I like the mini series, but yeah, I kind of heard mixed things about the movie.
It was
Mark, have you seen Sinners?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I really liked it. I thought I think I need to rewatch it again. I think the first hour is the best part, and then there's like one or two things in the second act that I didn't really love.
That seems to be the consensus.
I just saw it today for the first time, literally right before we got on. First half of the movie is incredible,
really good.
Once the vampires show up, it all goes downhill.
Yeah,
and there's some cool vampire stuff. Like there, it's really cool, but it feels so shoehorned in at the end, and it happens so fast. And Brian brought up a really good point about Ryan Coogler, which said he always makes the first 2/3 of his movies are always great. It's the final third, because I think of Black Panther, especially.
I've seen that once. I don't remember much about it. I will say he did the first Creed movie, right? And I think that is like my favorite out of like all the Rocky movies. That might be controversial, but I think Creed is fantastic. And,
well, I'll one up your controversial take by saying that Creed 2 is one of my favorites.
They're both great. But it's seeing Rocky, like Sly, at that stage in his career, like his performance was so great. I'm fairly certain he got nominated for a supporting actor that year. Like he was legitimately fantastic, and like that movie's really, really good.
Yeah, for anybody wondering, we're talking about Creed from 1978.
Not the
by Ryan Coogler and starring Michael B. Jordan.
But no, Sinners was really cool, and I just admired the sort of singularness of it. Like he said, he's not doing a sequel. and it does feel pretty unique just as a movie.
I still
Can
need
I-
to see it.
Before we hop off, can I ask you guys a question? Because everyone's talking about how Sinners is as successful as it is for an original idea, right? It's an original film. It's not based on anything. It's not adapting anything. It's not remaking. If Sinners was not done by a director as well known as Ryan Coogler, does it even do half of what it does? And does it get touted as financially successful and original if it wasn't because Ryan Coogler was like marketed as heavy as this movie was. So he creating
or would it even been greenlit?
That's the thing. I think because Coogler has made so much money for the studios, like all of his movies have been very profitable. Like he's done the 2 Black Panthers, right? That's a good question, honestly. Someone else answer while I think about it. I was gonna say something, but I forgot what I was gonna say.
I mean, I think his name carries a lot of pull. I haven't seen the film, but I think that's he's becoming one of those directors where his name carries weight. You know, say like someone was talking about, not, I don't mean them in the same tier, but like we were talking about Get Out earlier, and like Jordan Peele has a certain type of like appeal to his name for films that are coming up. I feel like with this being successful, I feel like that's definitely, people are going to be only that much more excited for his next film.
Yeah.
And this thing happens where, and I say this, we're 4 days away from seeing like, I know Jordan's seen it on the same thing, but we're going to see Eddington, right? An original film by Ari Aster. Ari Aster does not have the same selling name. So Ari Aster is not, or Eddington is not going to do anywhere near Sinners numbers, but that's an original, right? There's tons of original movies that do come out to various degrees that are not done by huge name directors that are very, very good, that never get recognized as like, oh, look at this original film doing well.
Well, that's my biggest problem I have, and kind of to sidestep just a little bit is people say there's no new original stuff. Everything's remakes, redones. There is. They just don't make money.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to see it.
Yeah, nobody's showing up for them.
I don't mean to cut you guys off. I got to bounce, guys, but
All right,
it was
All right.
awesome getting to hang out with you guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
See you, Steve.
Cool.
All right,
We'll
see you guys.
wrap it up here after you. See ya.
All right, I'll see you guys.
Good night, Steve. Yeah, I guess to continue, I don't know. I don't know that most, like, if I told my mom, oh, or if I asked my mom, have you seen the new Ryan Coogler movie? I don't think she knows who that is. I think we are so plugged into movies just in general that we have this shorthand where we know directors, we know studios, producers, writers, like we know that stuff, where your average person doesn't really know that stuff. And those are the people who make movies like Sinners into the big box office blockbusters that they become, because in order to become that, you have to appeal to the people who aren't us. So I don't know that necessarily Ryan Coogler, the name, is what made Sinners so successful, so much as the good word of mouth around the movie itself. And I think that people really liked the movie, and then it coincidentally sort of happened to be that it was Ryan Coogler. So the people who are cinephiles are aware of it, but the other people who maybe not so much are still seeing it because people are talking about it.
You could also say maybe it's not Ryan Coogler as Ryan Coogler, but I think what did help the box office draw was Ryan Coogler, who brought you Creed, Ryan Coogler, who brought you Black Panther. They're going to see, oh, Creed, oh, Black Panther, I'm going.
Right, and they've seen those movies, but those same people aren't necessarily like, oh, yeah, I really loved Black Panther. I can't wait for the next Ryan Coogler film. Like,
right? No,
they're probably not looking at it that way. That's just my opinion, though.
I just thought it was an interesting point because it's always
is interesting.
It's always the context at which you want to talk about it. If an original horror movie was to come out by a director nobody's ever heard of and it made a ton of money, I feel like that that conversation is much more relevant. But like when you say that's like saying, oh, James Wan's Malignant shows hope for original horror. And it's like, well, I mean, it's original horror by one of the biggest names in modern horror. You know what I mean? But if Joe Schmo was to come out with some movie and it'd be a massive hit, I wonder if the conversation is the same. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
I mean, it happened right with Ari Aster and Hereditary.
It did.
He came out of nowhere, and I think ultimately it comes down to the movie, because ultimately at the end of the day, people go see movies, and only the cinephiles now are like we're excited for the no Ari Aster because we are already familiar with his movies.
Mhm.
But if someone, let's say an older like a senior citizen who goes to the movies every Tuesday is just looking at the now playings and they see Eddington, they're just going to think like that's just like a neo western or something. Like they're not going to know that that's the guy who did Hereditary necessarily. Like they might. I'm not saying that they won't, but for the most part, like most people aren't looking for those through lines, because on the surface there is no connective tissue between Eddington and Hereditary, the two totally different genres. Yeah. You know, no one's going to really.
They're like, oh, I wonder what this 50th anniversary re-release of I Spit on Your Grave is. Go check that out. Go check that out.
No, it's for the people who are excited to see it, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think that was a good way to top it off. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Excited for 79. Mark, before we go, why don't you, since you're the new one here, let people know where to find you.
All right. My name is Mark. As you know, you can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Tales from the Shelf. I talk about new movies, old movies, physical media, and just horror in general. So that's where you can find me.
Yeah. And I love your videos where you're like, you challenge us. Like, do you really need to buy this?
Yeah, those are fun to make for me, because really all it is me kind of explaining my process to people, and if people have overlap with that process, that's awesome. But it's also me very much acknowledging that my situation is my situation, and I'm not trying to like advocate for people to I'm doing it right and you're doing it wrong. Like that's not what I don't really ever. I never try to take that approach with it, because I see other videos like that, and it becomes a slippery slope where I would never like deign to be like, I'm the real arbiter of physical media collecting. Like I do it, you know, the best way. Like it's fascinating, really, at the end of the day, because I love doing those videos because the comments are always so great, because people have such interesting criteria about the way that they collect, and you know, it's just I find it all very fascinating. So,
oh, man, sweet.
But thank you for having me on. I'm really sorry I was late again.
That's okay.
I'm very excited to hopefully do 79. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Lots of fun. Well, all right, guys. I think we're good.
Good night, boys.
We'll see you guys later. See you next time for 79.
Good night, guys.
All right, see ya.